Hello everybody, welcome back to the CBLOL English. It is an ultra rare Trajan produced stream today. I've managed to somehow, I think, get my head around the VMix. Please tell me in the chat if it's all broken and terrible. I do need to know this. This is my first VMix stream. But I'm joined by SuperBren on this cast. At least something is gonna go right. How you doing today, Bren?
I am very excited. We had that break for the international, and then it felt like the international ended. It was like, all right, see you next week for CBLOL, everyone. And like, I wasn't ready personally. Then we got back in. We had some dang good series, and now we get to follow up and kind of. We had 1 week of material on all these teams. We get to see coming into week 2 if that first week was if that was real or fake, because there's some teams, like one of the first ones we're going to watch today, that had a series last week that I don't know if that's real.
Yeah, I mean, RMC said as much on the Gringos Liberados episode that first week of CBLOL tends to be a bit, it's a bit off the wall. We don't tend to put too much stock by it, shall we say, but I was ready to be convinced by at least some of it, because I think we had predicted some of it, right? Things like the loud sort of drop-off that we started to see already. We saw the problems coming in there. Even though they won the CBLOL Cup and then managed to take Lyon to 5 games, we knew they had problems, kind of fundamental issues there that don't seem to have been solved. Red, despite the new top side, is still looking good. Furia are still looking more or less like themselves, but they definitely had a slow week 1. But I think the biggest, one of the biggest things that will affect us later today is the VKS return to strength, right? They came back in and looked like they were end of 2025 VKS. They looked like they went straight back to the macro gods, and their new roster changes looked really, really solid.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of kind of pontificating on whether or not VKS, and I think this kind of always happens with any change that VKS makes, because CL is so public, because he's so like forward facing and such a big personality. It's very easy to kind of interact with and thus criticize kind of the changes that VKS makes. When they dropped Pro Delta for Trimby, it was a big to-do. When they, then when they let Trimby walk back to Europe and picked up, Kai Wing, it was a big to-do. I think most people were pretty positive about that to-do, but it was still a big talking point. And then obviously now the change, the big one obviously being, CO is now in for Morteus. That was such a big change, because we were told, hey, Morteus is the guy, but CL has said multiple times, just because you have a plan doesn't mean that it's always going to work out. And I'm glad to see that the changes they made have allowed the team to get back on track, because I think the league, CBLOL, just is a better place when VKS is very strong, because they are such a forward-facing brand, because they are so internationally oriented, like in terms of their style. I think it'll be better for the league for them to be good.
Yeah, I think that they are very publicly favoring like good practice, investing in your players, talent development, taking responsibility. Like all of the things they project, I think, are principally good for an esports team to project, right? So having them be successful at the front and center of the CBLOL, I think, is arguably a good thing. However, let's focus on the first match of the day. Let's focus, because we can see them. We're going to be getting to the draft before too long. And the first match, Los Grandes versus Leviathan. Leviathan definitely look like they have suffered heavily through the loss of Seo. Snaker still seems to be struggling down there, and the top side really wasn't hitting in the same way that it had before. But for Los Grandes, they 2-1 Furia. They had an absolute slammer of a series versus Furia, the America's Cup champions, and Los Grandes continue to dominate in regular seasons, right? They were our CBLOL Cup first place team.
Yeah, and Duda ties Morteus and Steps from that first week, I believe, with 9 kills as the most kills in a single game. So he picked up right where he left off, which we were, very excited about Dudu's progress and how he was going to progress. But overall, Los Grandes, we kind of saw them in that first split. And we're like, okay, it's going to taper off eventually. Like, they're exciting, but like, when's the shoe going to drop? And it kind of hasn't. They didn't have quite the success that you might have wanted in the playoffs, but they're still a pretty solid, foundationally sound team, and they're continuing to move forward here. Like I said, up against Leviathan, I think it is Los Grandes in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it certainly is, right? Even though Furia were the team that knocked them out the CBLOL Cup, and the Fearless format did seem to take a bit of the sting out of them, they've certainly been working hard, and they came back more than prepared. Now, as the draft kicks off, we were just rejoicing about the Karma nerfs coming potentially for the
death
game.
Of Karma.
Sadly, we are not there yet. We're gonna have to wait for the patches to roll forward, and Karma was first picked by Losir, paired it with Sivir straight away. So they seem happy enough to deny that from the Ezreal Karma combination that Lev were threatening potentially if the Karma had not been locked in. Lev also has the bookies in Zhao, and Loss knocking in the Aatrox as well. So technically still a flex, of course, could be Drake here or Zest taking their hand to him.
Yeah, I do like the Aatrox being a flexible pick towards the jungle now. It is a lot of fun. But I actually want to call out this this Ezreal pick, because that is the pick that we saw did a shine the most on, I feel like, last week versus Furia. And so now that's gone as well. And against the kind of uninteractive, like we said, kind of uninteresting bot lane that is the Sivir and the Karma, Ezreal's not a bad pick, because now your support can say, hey, if we're not interacting anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and dip. I'd imagine that Leviathan's going to pick something that can roam up, affect the rest of the map, because Ezreal is so safe on his own in the bot lane.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Ezreal Bard. We've seen a little bit of Ezreal Nico as well, both supports which can be very effective on the roam timers. So potentially we'll see Toplop turn his hand to either of these. We have the Anivia locked in for Enga, though, assuming we're not going to see a little Anivia support, which we have seen start to creep back into the LCK, as it tends to do. But with the bans coming through here in the second wave, Talia the first taken away from Feisty. I would still argue Talia has been Feisty's strongest pick on average since we've seen him debut in the CBLOL in 2026. And for Leviathan, you know, I'm keeping a close eye on what we see for Devast. He's probably the strongest player that we saw from Leviathan. Last split was absolutely taking the fight to some of the best we have up in that lane. A very strong individual talent, and I think with the loss of Seo, Leviathan really are relying a little bit more on Devast, Bookie, and Enga to pick up the slack.
Interesting. You talked about that Anivia support. Los Grandes might be agreeing with you, as we see that the Rise is the fourth ban there for Los Grandes, which is double interesting, because, you know, it's if it is the Anivia support, the Rise would be an interesting. It's a second, like, kind of control mage.
Yeah.
Now that could be could be a top laner.
Yes, we're still not confirmed. We're still not sure.
We don't know.
And yeah, because Anivia was pitched as one of the answers into Rise. That's kind of what dragged Anivia back into the meta, was as a Rise counter. So it feels like Loss, they're really not convinced, right? Because they're banning a champion that surely they wouldn't even bother picking if the Anivia was already going there. So we're going to sit there kind of assuming that don't want to let Enga snap it up as well as the Anivia, as the Ambess is going to be picked up for Zest right here. So, you know, semi-potentially blind, of course, depending on if the Aurora can be flexed up there into Deva's hands. A Victor to lock it up for Feisty, so a very standard kind of control mage in the mid lane. Great solid team fight from Lost that is put together here. No true tanks, but a lot of drain tanking and shielding from the Karma.
Yeah, we're gonna see what this top lane pick is. It is likely an Anivia support, unless they're super mega baiting us with whatever whatever top up is hovering for Devos. But I think we are gonna see Ezreal Anivia in the bot lane as an answer to that Karma and Sivir. That's gonna be kind of an interesting one. I'm not sure how that lane interacts.
Just a random point here. It seemed like Leviathan were already swapping picks before they'd locked in all their champs. I didn't even know you could do that. Possible graphical error on the CBLOL stream? I don't know. But they seem to have broken kind of space-time for a second there. But they've locked in Jace Top. We have seen Zest pull out of Jace Top into Gigo in that Furia series. He absolutely demolished Gigo on Ambessa in that matchup. So Devas now has a chance to take the reverse matchup and do the same to Zest as he did to Gigo. We'll see how Devas can achieve that. Of course, as we said, very strong individual talent there for Lev. And yeah, this Ezreal Anivia bot lane, kind of a high mobility versus zero mobility, but the Anivia passive obviously helps them commit to a 2v2 fight with that extra health bar in the back pocket. But I mean, Sivir Karma, I'm kind of assuming this is just on interaction central, right? We're pushing the lane, we're constantly shielding, we're healing up to full, we're blocking half your spells. I don't really know how Anivia Ezreal can get any purchase on a Sivir Karma.
Yeah, they just Sivir is like the on-interaction carry, I feel like. Especially once she has first item, you're able to generate just infinite amounts of mana with the Essence Reaver and just destroy waves. And then you just don't ever talk to anyone. You wait for the team fights, and in a team fight, like, I think it's mathematically the only way you can do more damage like per auto attack for an AD carry in like a team fight is to have all 5 enemies standing in the exact same spot and shoot them with a Jinx rocket, like with Jinx Q.
Yeah.
Other than that, the bouncing boomerang is going to do a lot of damage come those late game team fights. And so I think it's going to be a little bit of kind of like not agency, but the kind of onus is on Leviathan to find something to do to affect the game positively before they get to those 5v5 team fights. Because I think if they come into these neutral objective fights and all else is equal, it's gonna look very Los favored.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, the Lost team fight, the scaling is really, really strong. The Leviathan's mid game is certainly not to be sniffed at, but I think I would generally favor Lost, you know, in a team sense and in a draft sense at that stage. Certainly after we saw what we saw in week 1. So Leviathan, we need to see action. We need to see Bucky. Obviously, Bucky is the king of early action in jungle. Certainly not afraid of that. His invades are kind of legendary now. He loves to get down and dirty as the Xin Zhao, great champion to do that with. So let's see what he can make happen. As Snaker and Top Plop, they've burnt the heal already. Of course, there's early summoners coming out. As the Anivia drops very low, does still have the passive, remember, so not in too much actual danger. But Snaker and Top Plop, they know they've got to make something happen early on. They're trying to push.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. Top Plop just effectively saying, I have a whole extra health bar, and thus no trade is really a bad trade for me at this point. I'm just going to get as much damage as I can down. But meanwhile, talking about that early jungle action, Drake Hero getting in on it, getting an invade here onto Bookie's blue. That's going to matter here in a second. I don't know if they have vision on that blue buff for Bookie to know that he needs to vertically jungle.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about Bookie being the invader here, but Drake here is the one leading the charge into the bot side of the jungle. Nobody seems like they're going to check the bot lane. Eshel and Nivea are pushed up, but they do not know this is happening. They're trying to get some purchase over W2D2 and Ackerman. They don't know there's a vulnerable Aatrox just above them working on the Grump right now. As you can see, all lanes are pretty comfortable. Drake here is actually the one going for the gank himself with double buffs ready. Toplop's going to get pushed into the Anivia passive. Snaker knows he has to commit, flashes in. A lovely spell shoot by W2D2, but it does not stop the first blood being picked up by Snaker. It's a 2-for-1 though, as nobody could help the Anivia.
Yeah, 2-for-1, but it's a correct play from Snaker there. He sees that he's already committed. They see the Aatrox behind them. There's no point in going back. You flash forward, you do everything you can, and is able to at least pick up the first blood gold. Getting that extra 100 gold on the kill makes that a little bit more palatable than it otherwise would have, but that's just kind of the dangers of early vision, perhaps being a little bit of a lie. Drake Hero having kind of an easy gank, because like we said, they had no clue he was back there.
Yeah. We saw the counter move from Bookie there, moving into the mid lane, gets a flash out of Feisty as well, so easy value, steps onto the top side now working on the scuttle. However, Ackerman and Drake Hero around the corner, and they're going to contest him on this. There's priority for Devast and Enga. They're going to arrive here quickly, but Karma Aatrox is a pretty strong deal already at level 3. They don't need items to be effective. And Leviathan have ceded control of the river for the time being at least. Drake Hero knows he doesn't want to start it up. Bookie's waiting to see if he will. This fight is not quite done yet, and Leviathan go back to continue to hold priority over the lanes. Drake Hero now working on the scuttle, looking for the Infernal Chains. Lands it, doesn't quite get the Qs off though. The third one will last. Bookie getting chopped up by the Darkened Blade right now. Devas rotating down, Enga rotating up. Drake Hero now does not have Ackerman in the back pocket. The gravity wheel does not quite get the stun. It lands onto Enga. Bookie finds a knockup, but Drake Hero escapes back to mid lane. Devast with the shock charge, and Drake Hero barely scrapes away alive. Leviathan fighting tooth and nail for this top scuttle, Bren.
Yeah, this scuttle was contested ground for quite a while there, and it does kind of delay a lot of what we could have seen in terms of the development in the lanes. We're going to see a replay here of this bot gank so long ago. And because of the replay, we miss it. Solo kill in the top lane.
Yikes. That's not what you want to see. After Deva spent so much time trying to tend down to help his jungler, it walks back to top lane and gives up a kill.
Yeah, and that's kind of just the dangers. Like I said, the wave is going to be in not quite the correct state for where you want it to be, because everyone was spending so much time going after this scuttle. It was actually the Darkened Blade, literally just the passive, that was the difference between Drake Hero living and dying, having proc passive enough healing to not die to that accelerated shock blast. He lived with, I think, genuinely less health than his passive heals him for at this stage of the game.
And Leviathan now on the back foot after those early plays in that stage, 5 minutes in, but Los with 3 kills to 1. They've got an advantage in top lane, despite the matchup that Zest has found himself in. Dudu and Ackerman did give up a kill, but they're up in gold overall. They managed to make that fight work. We can see the replay of this scrap. Devas just wants this, and he's just losing it, Bren. I'll be honest, he's picked this fight and he lost it.
Yeah, he goes forward there and gets decent damage down, but I'm not sure that was the optimal combo there from the Jace. I think he didn't weave in one of those autos at the right time, and regardless, I think he underestimated how much shield that Ambessa gets on the W. I believe it is what gives her kind of a pretty big shield as long as she hits you with it, and all that extra shielding meant that Zest was not really in any danger. It didn't feel like that felt. It felt like, Devas went forward, wanted the fight, but Zest kind of didn't care.
Okay. So ults and flashes committed in top side. Both junglers are ready to look for more, and Devast, feeling more confident right now, continues to push Zest back to the turret. Drake Hero heads back to farming, as I think there's Inj out. He's in a good spot right now, and Enga, of course, still rotating up as always. He has been quick to move to any of these topside scuffles, but Zest did not lose the flash. Of course, didn't have it already in that play, but Devas now without that tool, pretty hard to escape from an Ambessa when she's trying to run you down.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot more careful positioning here, using that Q4, just clearing the wave. And I think Zest is fine, knows that they are currently up just that little bit of gold. Even though they're down farm, not going to commit anything more than they need to. Good scraps here in the mid lane. Feisty, this is kind of the advantage of Jace. It's what I tell people. I was talking about, never mind. We won't commit with the ultimate. We do drop it though.
We've dropped the ultimate, and the Ackerman shield just kind of renders it a bit of a nothing burger, right? At the rank 1, without much base stats or item stats to put into it, it just kind of goes nowhere.
And so what I was saying about Feisty on that Victor is that we're talking, one of the things we had mentioned, kind of coming into today in the pregame before we were live, was talking about the concept of just health as a resource. And one of the things Victor does really well is he's never hitting you for a lot of damage, but he's always consistently able to hit you for a little bit. And it just chips you lower and lower and makes your options worse and worse. And he's been just slowly doing that, and that's how he's got that nice farm lead on Engas. We might see a commit to a team fight here, Trajan.
Buki gets away from the Infernal Chains. Has to use the Crescent Guard, though. He's going to dash back to the minions to break the route. Nice moves by Buki to get away. World Ender was popped by Drake Hero as the mid laners are scrapping in there. Attempts to move down the river. Los do get control of the dragon, and Drake Hero will start it up.
So they're going to start up the dragon. Like I said, you can just see here in the mid lane, Feisty just taking these trades, forcing Enga to use those refillables. And like I said, that's kind of what I value about that Victor is it's fairly safe and fairly easy to hit just small little bits of chip damage. And that means Feisty's going to be able to rotate down here first. And now we're committing to the team fight.
It's 4v3.
We have some good damage coming in from the Victor.
Oh, they're flashing on him. They're looking for Drake here. Dragon goes down, but the junglers are both traded as well. Snaker, he had to E into the pit to secure the damage, leaves himself exposed. He gets picked apart, and Feisty had complete control over the mid lane move, and Leviathan just kind of blunder into a 3v4.
Yeah, but it's not done here. Toplop still finding damage into Feisty. They are going to get out now. Significantly does delay the Victor's return to the mid lane, so Enga's going to try and use that to catch back up on some gold here, immediately moving in to set that tempo where they want it. Going to get a plate and get out. The teleport now expended there for Feisty. We got some more hands, some more fist fighting here on the top side.
Yeah, they're certainly willing to go for it. The ult connects, Zest with the public execution onto Devas. Drake Hero ready to back him up, picks up the credit as well, and Devas' game continuing to suffer. That's the CS lead, but the deaths are starting to rack up.
Yeah, 0-2-0 now. Like you said, does have that slight CS lead, is about a wave up. We're going to get a replay of what happened here. And this was just kind of an odd commit because Los Grandes go in, they have Buki, but I don't think they know that Duda is in a good position to rotate or just didn't expect that it would take so long for Enga to get there. And that means they've kind of already lost the trade by the time the fight really starts for them. And Enga, even on the back out, you can see that the Hex Tech Ray still gets some good chip in there. Enga down to half health, and so immediately had to decommit once that teleport was used in the top side, or in the mid lane rather. At least it did get the plates, but you can see this little bit's chip damage is starting to add up quite handsomely there for Feisty in the mid lane.
Absolutely. He has been very resilient into Enga's Aurora, winning out those trades consistently despite the burst that Aurora has in that laning phase. Lost having built themselves up about a 1,500 gold lead with the first Mountain Drake on deck as well. Big damage onto Ackerman. Crunched into the wall by a well-placed Anivia wall. Leaves the Karma barely alive. That's some decent burst right there.
Did Ackerman not know they were on vision? The minion was autoing you, my guy. Like, the minion was standing next to you. You know you're on vision.
If I steep back steps, the audacious,
being on vision,
the wind becomes lightning, but will not be able to stay out of range forever. It has a flash to use right now, and the ultimate silences Enga for the moment, chipping away at him as well with that Chaos Storm. Steps up for a laser. Feisty confidently outmaneuvers the 2v1, allows Drake Hero to get in position, lands the Inferno Chains, Darkin Blade 1 and 2 connect. And Feisty will stop the back as well. Leviathan, they just get outclassed in that mid-fight.
Yeah, they had like the good rotation for the gank. They're able to get onto Feisty, but a really good flash away, good use of the ultimate as well. Taking full advantage of Victor's kit there and starting to do some pretty significant damage. The early Dark Seal, you don't normally think of Victor as like a high damage threat. Like I said, all of his things seem to just very consistently do a little bit of damage to you. But once he starts to get rolling, once he gets a little bit of AP, especially with the current build, right? We're no longer in the Grasp, Roa, super tanky Victor. We're going Blackfire Torch here. As you can see the Faded Ashes come in. That is like the kind of mathematically, objectively correct build in nearly every game is going to be Blackfire Torch into Liandry's. Even without the tanks, that just extra burn damage does make it so valuable. And it starts to make Victor really, really threatening.
Potentially on a 3v1 dive right now. Puts up the spell shield, but can't dodge too much of it. Doesn't get CC'd at least. Snaker's tanking the tower. He's got to get out of there. Dudu contests him. Locks out a killing spree. And I don't know, man. We were raving about Dudu's Corki in the CBLOL Cup, but his Sivir in Split 1 is absolutely frying.
This guy lives, like you said, very critically. Doesn't get CC'd. Uses the spell shield at the right time. Is able then to move back, link up with Ackerman, get that extra shielding down, and just outplay there because it would end up being Snaker that took a tower shot. And Ezreal was a little too squishy to be tanking the tower. Kind of everyone on Leviathan is a little too squishy to be tanking a tower. Kind of the downside to this current composition, the kind of popularized compositions where we kind of have a carry in every lane. We don't necessarily have someone whose job is just to be a big pool of health bar, a big old bullet sponge. Because of that, that makes these dives a little bit more difficult to execute. If you have, say, a Nautilus here, he just tanks the tower and you're fine. But it is a really well executed play. Dudu just barely gets in range of the Karma, gets the shield, is able to turn around, go on to Snaker, and just outplay the dive. And again, like we talked about Los Grandes being in the driver's seat, not only are they up about 3,500 gold here, but they also have a much more of their quests completed. I think that is something to note here at 13 minutes. You see all 5 quests have now been completed here for Los Grandes, and only the top and support quests for Leviathan, and that is significant. Moving those boot slot, getting the extra gold generation started early for their bot laner, and getting that empowered recall for their mid laner are going to allow them to play the map a lot better.
Leviathan still manages to get onto the Drake, and they will even the score at 1-1. They found a way onto Drake Hero. Everyone's there. Do they have the burst? Not quite. Flash and ult from the Aatrox will keep him alive. Looks for a little re-engage. Cannot find it, though, as we see top lane Devas is still struggling into Zest. Is going to have to give up control of this top lane even further. And you can see the gold leads across the board, Bren. It speaks to what you were talking about this time. Dudu once again caught out, though. Ackerman around the corner. Has no heal for him this time. The shield's already been burnt through. There it is. He's so low, and there's the kill. Top plot manages to make it work. Even Dudu couldn't clutch his way out of it that time as Anivia pushed into the egg, and out comes Drake Hero around the corner. They've got the chains to follow up. A flash from the Anivia. Heal as well. Isn't available this time, but Top Plot will survive and Dev picked up a solo kill, or a 2v2 kill, I should say, onto Dudu. Bookie's around the corner looking for a bit of revenge. Gets the flash out of Ackerman. Drake Kira still holding the wave. Now Feisty under attack in the mid lane, and Devastan ain't gonna take him down 2v1.
All right, now we get some shutdowns in the hands of Leviathan that significantly cuts into the gold. We were just talking about it approaching 4,000. It's essentially cut in half now, back down to 2K. And we didn't get a full sweep of what happened in the mid lane. Unsure what caused Feisty to be in that position, but I can tell you what caused Dudu to be in his position in the bot lane that got him caught out. Biblical greed, Trajan. The type of stuff they talk about in the Old Testament. This guy was like, yeah, I'm just going to walk up and hit your tower. I'm going to get all these plates. And they just walked in behind him because he was kind of illegally positioned. And this time, like you said, there was no heal for the Karma to give. Does give the shield, but got immediately minced through and almost gets away. But Toplop did inevitably find the Q. Now, it's going to we're going to see if they can keep that 2v2 momentum up, Leviathan, because they now essentially have that isolated 2v2, but now in the mid lane. So the lane is a little shorter, a little less space to kind of get in behind people, force that scrap. It's going to be a little easier for that Sivir to get away if it comes to it. You see everyone's grouped up here.
Around the mid lane right now, answered by Los. They seem happy to contest the space right now. Dudu and Ackerman feeling very, very strong. Over 1,000 gold lead still for the Sivir, despite getting caught out in the bot lane mere moments ago. But the Herald is ready and waiting for Los. I think they want to try and move on to it. Leviathan as well. Bookie getting stuck in. There's a stun onto Drake Kira. No damage to follow it up, though. As Los will hold fast in the mid lane. Gives Lev control of that river for the time being to get some wards down.
Yeah, they've got great vision here. They're going to go ahead and start up the Herald. It's pretty difficult for Los to get in and contest. Leviathan making some good moves on the map. See if they can confirm this into a full-on objective, or if Los are going to make something happen.
Toplop caught out here. The root connects for the Karma. No passive ready. Bookie's going in to defend them, though. Enga as well with the burst. They've knocked out the Aatrox. Devast and Zest have TP'd in. Zest executes into the backline. Double kill set up for the Sivir. And now Lev need to get back to the tower. They have a structure to hold it. Dudu is low, but not dead. Devast, within inches of claiming the kill on the Sivir, cannot find it. It makes it a 3-for-1 in the favor of Los.
And Los Grandes able to, like we said, find that engage. We said, can Leviathan convert this over into actually having the objective? They controlled the space, but opted to kind of opted into that scrap in the mid lane, I feel, because, Bookie came down. Bookie was on the Herald, had it at about half, and decided to kind of join into the fray. And once everyone got there, it was Los Grandes in a fairly firm, commanding position, hit the public execution for a big pick there to continue their fight. And that means they're going to pick up the bot lane tower, they're going to pick up plates in the top lane tower, and they're probably going to pick up this Herald here. You can see it looks like a decent fight. They have the numbers, but Dudu does so much damage, and it's here when Zest gets in, hits that, and now you know for certain the fight is going to go Los Grandes' way because they took the enemy jungler. There's not anything Lev can even find off the back of it. 3-for-1 is a good trade any day.
Absolutely. Lev still trying to find pushes across the map. We see Enga shoving Zest in right now, but Ackerman's around the corner behind him. Enga's got to be careful. And Zest, after handling that Jace lane so well, makes a pivotal catch in that mid lane fight, and the gold has a big jump forward. Los in solid control of this first game versus Leviathan. Not too surprising given what we saw from them against Furia. And Toplop now looking to get a punish onto Feisty. A flash in to get the slows going for Devas to try and set him up, but now Feisty's committing himself. Jace has gone very low, flashes into the alcove though. Denies the vision, and Feisty will be picked off by Toplop.
A very close fight, all things considered, and that means they committed. They saw at least 2 members. I wouldn't be surprised. I think they may have even seen the Xin Zhao on the top side. So they know that Leviathan is up there and that this is a free dragon. Los Grandes are going to immediately capitalize. They don't really care about that top outer turret at this stage of the game. It's not particularly a useful objective, but getting these ocean drakes, getting that healing. When you're into something like Jace, something like Aurora, that can kind of get those, are happy to take those short trades and chunk you down, They might be able to defend the top tower. What the heck?
Okay, Anger's trying to commit for the turret. Has he found it? The last minion can't get the job done. And Zest just waits patiently for him to try and escape.
That's gonna be 1 HP.
Knocks him down. And there it is. 6 HP out of 9,000 on that turret. Unfortunate. This game is going from bad to worse for Lev.
And I said, perhaps erroneously, I said, Los don't care about this top tower anymore. It's just kind of a meaningless objective when you've got, Ocean Drake up. That healing is going to matter so much into a poke champ like Jace, into, those kind of burst champs like Aurora. You can get that healing and then re-engage the fight later. And they said, why not both? Then they're going to get another pick here in the bot side. Everything going Los Grandes' way. Is Lev going to opt for this fight? They may not have a choice.
Yeah, I think Lev feel like if they just sit back, they're just going to get knocked down. Drake Hero, though, he was caught by the Anivia wall, jumps into the Herald to scoot his way past it. Bookie with the Crescent Guard on, flashes the wall to try and escape. Drake Hero's back in fact. Threatens the Xin Zhao, but backs away himself. Herald now knocking on the turret, isn't going to get a charge off at least, so small comfort there for Lev, but they'd have loved to find a kill.
Yeah, all things considered, with that dramatic of a fight, especially with the catch on Drake Hero, you would have loved to see, like you said, get a kill, get some more gold into your pockets, and unable to find it. A really heads-up play to use the Rift Herald to escape the CC, and it worked out just barely for Los. I feel like that one was like very thin margins, but that's kind of what you get when you're up, what, 7K at this stage of the game?
Yeah,
you can take like a weird fight, and if it doesn't work out, you're probably not going to lose too much because you got a big fat wallet full of items.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Los are pretty much free to do as they please right now. This is the ideal situation for them, right? All of their lanes were able to flex their skill to build their own advantages, and it now gives them so much flexibility across the map to play through any lane, any power point that they wish, and they can confidently leave players like Zest, like Feisty, on side lanes because they know they're going to be super, super safe right there. They're going to be very confident. They're able to take the fight to Leviathan, and they are now setting up Baron Vision. 22 minutes on the clock. Loss not threatening Soul just yet because of the Cloud Drake that Leviathan picked up earlier on. But basically everything else is entirely in their favor, and they're doing a bit of homework to make sure this Baron is a safe threat. But all of the Leviathan members are on bot side right now.
They're all on the bot side, and they're perhaps looking for Zest, but
they spot
the thing is that bot turret's still up, so they'd have to go for a dive if they wanted it. So they're
just checked.
I kind of don't know what Lev's looking for, I'll be honest.
They Ezreal ulted the Baron to try and check, but didn't get any information out of it. Zest now in a 1v2 is being threatened by Enger and Devast. Commits the ultimate, but it looks like Leviathan should be able to complete this. Kill secured. And Loss not happy enough to go for this Drake. What they are happy enough to look for is Top Plop trying to get a push down in the mid lane. They'll burst the Seeker's arm guard, threatening the damage as the Anivia egg comes. Cure frontlining for the time being. Killing spree for Dudu, trying to get that Sivir into range as Bookie's ult has timed out as well. Enger TP's back in from the base. It's a 4v4 in the mid lane right now, but Leviathan trying to control Loss, trying to stop them from just barreling down this mid lane.
Yeah, they're taking this fight here just to try to, like you said, keep it in control. But Los Grandes are kind of like, okay, you guys go hide in that jungle over there. We're gonna go hit your tower. Take what they can get. They find some good damage onto Frosty. It's Los that are on the back foot. Leviathan kind of hunting for them right now. Not sure how much they stand to find. Maybe they can get some plates off of this mid lane tower. They will get the first plate, or the third plate off of that tower because of the crystal growth, and immediately back away. It's a small victory, but immediately a teleport's coming in. They're just gonna start a Baron. They saw everyone on Lev back away, and we're like, hey, we're just gonna do Baron. Leviathan, I think, are aware of the situation at least, are barreling towards this Baron. Are they gonna get there fast enough, Trajan?
Top Plop and Enger trying to get that mid wave pushing out as Bookie's going to get a ward down. They know what's going on. Ezreal ult used as well. Enger takes a bit of a chunk through that, and Devast, or Zest I should say, commits the ultimate onto Top Plop, gets the flash away, but they can't find the kill just yet. Bit of counter poke onto the Ambessa. Leviathan return to their own jungle. They have at least cancelled the Baron attempt, so not too bad for now, but Los now turn their attention to the Drake, and I do not think Lev are stopping them.
Yeah, it's going to be much harder to stop the Drake than it is to stop the Baron. They are going to clear out the vision, try and reestablish some control on this top side, but Feisty just doesn't care.
He's on his own right now. Pop the ultimate to try and kill the Anivia. He's just about out of reach for Bookie. He can't find the knockup. Now Ackerman's arrived with slows and CC to offer. The Leviathan jungler under threat has to pop the Crescent Guard again. Snaker, Ian forward for DPS. Feisty is currently still on his own. The top side of Los are on bot lane right now. Dudu has arrived back in the mid lane, pops the ultimate to get into range, steps onto the front line, and the Ricochet takes out top block. He's still frontlining, and Los Grandes bot laner took that fight into his own hands. Drake Hero now arrives to top up that front line. Enga will be chopped down by the Aatrox, and all this time, Zest is pushing in bot side.
Yeah, and Dudu with another 9-kill game. Again, that is currently the most we've had by a single player in the CBLOL this split. Obviously only 2 weeks in, but just having a good time here is Dudu. And he's playing with some confidence. I've never seen a Sivir that far forward. I'd love to see like a screenshot of how many different Leviathan players are surrounding Dudu in that play, and he just did not care.
Yeah. That seems to be Dudu all the way down on this Sivir. We saw it into Ayu's Varus in that Furious series, just brush camping Varus for solo kills on Sivir. This guy plays Sivir in a way that you do not see anyone else piloting this champ. He knows exactly how strong he is at all points of the game, and he makes the champ look absolutely broken in his hands.
Yes, we're going to get a replay here, and I think it's just goes to show, even with the more AP, like I said, the more damage-focused build, look how much survivability Feisty has, especially with this Karma here. They're able to find just positive trade after positive trade, and they're outnumbered, but they just keep the enemy occupied so long. They're getting value across the map. They find time for Dudu to get involved, and look at this! Oh. Look at that screenshot! And tell me that makes any sense. Dudu is like in melee range with 3 Leviathan champions, and he does not care.
He's just, I out DPS you, bro. You don't win this. I don't care if I'm in melee range. I've got more damage than you've got HP. And unfortunately, he's absolutely right. Leviathan will concede that. They'll lose the Baron as well off the back of the control secured right now. So Los now, 12k in the lead. They are completely in control here. They've already got an Inhib and a Nexus Tower dead in bot side. This should be a formality for them to lock this game up in the next couple of minutes. They've got Baron waves pushing in top and mid lane. They did use some summoners aggressively for that play. Dudu is without as much options. I was going to say defensive options, but that's not how he uses his summoners. But if there's going to be a chance for Lev, maybe they can catch out the Sivir, but the wallet gap is just monumental.
Yeah, it's Dudu's actually the first player to find a way to use barrier offensively.
Yeah.
he's managed it. I would not doubt it, because this has just been a game of like really high confidence, high class play from the Los Grandes bot lane combined. I mean, talk about how good Ackerman has been, you know, all year for these guys. And another kill that does put Dudu now as the sole holder of highest kills in a game for the CBLOL this split. They barely miss out on the kill on Snaker. They're farming for KDA, Trajan.
Bro, they're farming for clips right now, Los Grandes. What a game one. Not too surprising, but I think that is the quality that we're seeing out of these players. The individual talent for Los Grandes is so clearly there. And the way that they're playing out with those leads is now very, very strong, right? They're able to convert super reality against Lev. Lev is a team that was still trying to find fights, to find plays, find, you know, cracks in the armor. But they couldn't find any. Los Grandes were not giving them opportunities, and their mechanics are holding strong. And that just left Leviathan at their mercy.
Yeah, and, you know, the devs did hit Karma with a stick in this last update. Yeah. I think maybe they're gonna have to revisit that after seeing
maybe
an
a bigger
17 game. Yeah. the mantra empowered E bonus is what like got hurt. It was like the primary shield went down by like a pretty significant amount in the late game, and it just didn't feel like it. That Karma was so strong early and just never really fell off, because she's like a damage champ early, and then she's like an enchanter shielder later, and they couldn't ever assail anyone. We saw multiple times where it's like, oh, they're gonna get this dive. Oops, Karma's there. Oh, they're gonna maybe find Feisty 1v4. Karma's there. Like, they could not do anything with Ackerman in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
luckily those champs are gone now.
Yes, bless the fearless format for Leviathan. They do not have to deal with Sivir Karma anymore. And we'll see if the next game in the series gives them a little bit more purchase to find in this series. It's looking tough, but best of 3 is best of 3. We know that Los Grandes have always been good in game 1. It's the later games that have started to punish them in the past. Let's see if Leviathan can use it to find a window for them. For now, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with game 2 of Los versus Leviathan. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to the CBLOL English. First game in the books, Los Grandes putting together an emphatic victory over Leviathan. And we are now back in to see if one of our last LATAM representatives in Lev can put something on the board today, or if their slumped start to Split 1 will continue.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough because opposite them is just a team that's clearly out to a hot start. I think everybody kind of felt that Furia underperformed a little bit in the CBLOL Cup. We had a bit higher expectations than where they ended up. And so then they went to the Copa Americas and just slaughtered the LCS teams. We're like, okay, this is the team we were ready for. And then Los beat them in the first week again anyway. So, if we're to assume that Los Grandes beat the Copa Americas form Furia, you're going to be hard pressed to find a lot of teams that are going to beat them if they can keep this, if they can keep this up.
It is a generous interpretation. I don't remember Tatu picking Gnar jungle in Copa Americas. Personally.
Hey, I saw him on Twitter. Tatu said that lots of people are asking them about the Gnar pick, and it's going to be really popular.
I'm sure they are. I'm asking. I'm looking to ask. We were asking about what the heck that was, and I don't think they'll be doing it again. As I think they kind of said, that was like we're not gonna do that. Sorry about that, guys. And the game 2 was a classic Furia stomp. The game 3 though was like a close set game that Los just outperformed Furia in. Right, that game 3 I think is the true game of that series where we saw in an evenly matched setting, Los do have the wherewithal to take down Furia. To your point, that does make them a very, very strong opponent. I think we're not quite sure yet where Los lies in the pecking order right now, because they were first seed in the Cup regular season, and then the playoffs, they really looked like they were more like a fourth, right? They did not kind of hold up under pressure, and they beat Furia. They're now looking very good against Lev, which we would expect, but against now the new and improved VKS, a potentially new and hard to say yet if improved, but certainly still good Red Canids. Those will be the true test for Los, so we'll see how they now lie. However, we are into the draft for game number 2, fearless as it is. First picks for Lev, but they are on the red side. They're going to lock in Pantheon first, which for Bucky, I think this is a great champion for him. It plays into his own strengths. It's certainly still strong on this patch as well.
Yeah, I mean, Pantheon's so strong. The 20% armor penetration on his ultimate, which I just forgot that they gave that to him. I come from a world where Pantheon is a support, and he doesn't do that much damage like that. He doesn't have it like that. And then I played against him in like the mid lane the other day, and I was like Galio, and I'm like, all right, I'm one item Galio. I have a Sunfire cape. What's he gonna do to me? And he like deleted my health bar. I was like, oh right, 20% armor pen, right? Of course.
Okay.
So that champion's a dangerous guy, and Bucky is I think he's a player that can pilot it to some success. So we'll have to see how it works out. I do like the response to the other side. Those are the two I don't know if those are like the hot commodity picks, or they're both certainly obviously prio, but the Rise being banned out in the last game, I think maybe it was almost a protection. Hey, now Feisty gets to play it this game.
Yeah.
And the J4 obviously a very solid pick as well. We were just talking about this Gnar. Guys, it could be Pantheon mid Gnar jungle. You don't know.
Jungle, guys.
Yeah, guys.
Could be. I think they were feeling good because the Jace was gone, right? This is the kind of the one pick where we saw this in the Loud Paint series, right? Shino was like just slamming the Gnar going, Robo, you won't pick Jace. You don't have a Jace. I know you don't. And he said it, right? He made it very clear he does not think Robo has a Jace. But that's kind of what they're trying to cover there. However, Zest has locked in Kennen. Now, this was a champion that actually Devis had played in the Cup. We didn't see it out of Zest. We saw it in that graphic in the middle of that first game, but we now have it coming out here. So this is a new one for our Lost top laner. AP's threats in both mid and top lane, so we'd expect to see Dudu on some sort of scaling, or at least a heavy AD carry. But the team fighting already from that top side as well, Bren, from Los, is phenomenal. Like, it's a very hard, engaged composition that they've started to put together.
Yeah, and I do see that like the Nico, the Seraphine are banned out, those kind of mages that you can throw into the support position. And so I'm wondering, I imagine Los Grandes wants to go for an Enchanter here to go with their like 80 carry, because I think it makes a lot of sense that they want something to throw that can just keep people in the front line. you know what? You said that they needed a heavy AD focused carry, and they picked one of the very few that does magic damage.
Yeah, well, I guess not. I guess we don't need heavy AP. Well, again, there's not too much tankiness on the side of Lev. They can build some MR, but and Nara's obviously can, but still needs to go into a bit of AD. Likes to get a little bit of attack speed in there somewhere. Like it's more like Black Cleavers than Hollow Radiances kind of deal. So we are going to see the Kai'Sa coming out, which I
believe that's our first of the split.
Yeah, I believe it is. I think this is an answer that people have for the Yunara early on. You can commit very heavily into it, right? The Leona for top flop is a strong engage combination from Leviathan, with an Alistair as the option by Ackerman, just going for the disengage as a choice right there, and bolstering that front line. So Lev, we've got great roaming, right? Look at Pantheon, Talia ult, we've got Leona ultimate from range, we've got Kai'Sa ult to ult in from outside of the play. They've got wonderful pick and global potential. Loss has a monster 5v5, absolute monster 5v5. So if Lev cannot actually exploit the fact that they have these globals and get a lane advantage, an honest-to-goodness lane advantage, then they're going to be walking into these Dragon and Baron fights with a worse draft for that, and without a gold lead to play with. They need to try and get something started early.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come down to, it's all going to start with the bot lane, right? Not just in can top lop roam. Leona has a very effective roam, like you said, especially post 6 because of the range on that ultimate. But you need to take an advantage here early on. Alistar, obviously, not necessarily easy to engage into. One of the, the premier disengage champions can get you away from his carry pretty simply. But he's not super tanky this early on. And I think Kai'Sa has a definite advantage in the lane versus the Yunara. Yunara needs some time to kind of ramp up. Isn't necessarily a slouch in the lane, but I think Kai'Sa should have the advantage there. And so I want to see some kind of aggression from the Leviathan bot lane. I want to see them try and make some proactive plays early, force some things to happen on the map. Then once they've got a small advantage in one place, they can then move around the map and make it happen elsewhere. But it's got to start early on. They have to be super proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm enjoying all the Easter Aurora ears in the crowd today for the CBLOL. Just why not? Why not just give them Aurora ears just for the Rabbit Day? I like it. I like that we have some cute culture going on here in the CBLOL arena in Sao Paulo. I head on to the Rift.
I love it. Yeah. I gotta say that the April Fool's skins just came out. I'm a huge fan of the Vex skin. It's so cute.
Yeah,
it's so cute.
It's a great choice of the skin line, right? So to pair with Surprise Party, Fiddlestick, Surprise Party Vex certainly works very well too. Big clown vibes, I don't know. I think it works very, very well.
It works so well. But speaking of clowns, us two clowns are gonna have to focus on the game at hand and not the April Fool's skins.
Like that. As you see, the engage by top flop, countered by a headbutt away from Ackerman, so nobody really achieves much. In fact, W2D2 actually shreds top flop down to half. So unfortunate for Lev, not the start they would have wanted playing over that brush control level 1.
So when I said proactive, what I meant was
you also said clowns,
winning
so,
proactively.
There's a lot of themes to pull into this play.
We might not be able to make it all connected. I'm not the best story writer, I'll be honest.
Well, I'm sure we can weave something out of this. Hopefully, Leviathan will not allow us to weave a clown narrative into this game. That's kind of not what we want to see. As we see an invade from Bookie, though, on that bot side. Has managed to sneak in past Vision and is going to steal away that red buff. So we'll see if Drake here is going to predict this or is going to walk over to an empty bot side. And if Bookie can make anything happen here, could look for a cheeky little level 2 gank, actually. W2D2 and Ackerman are pushed up. I think they know they're in a little bit of danger, especially as level 2 has been hit by Lev, but they're drawing them in. We need to get this multi-lane camera out of the way. W2D2 has been hit by the Zenith Blade and is now going into the 2 versus 2. Bookie now steps in to get the stun on Ackerman. First blood handed over to Snaker. That's what Leviathan needed to see.
As we were talking about proactivity, finding an advantage, like I said, in this bot lane early on, because now with that advantage, they can continue to press it, get that gold lead for Snaker. That's going to allow Toplop to roam more effectively, get to the other lanes, and affect the map. You can't do that if you're behind, if you're weak in that lane. So this is just really well done. They bait them in. They do exactly what every Leona is supposed to do. You hit level 2, you Zenith Blade the enemy AD carry, And a good play, honestly, by Ackerman uses the pulverize to stop the flag and drag, but it's just a little too late. And that means they get that first blood. This is exactly what we were looking for.
Now, Devis could be under threat right now. However, Bookie has arrived to support, so the Nara is going to be comfortable under that turret. Toplop checking in on mid lane to see if anything can be done right there. But so far, Leviathan, successful play on bot side, successful on top side. It's exactly what they wanted to see. And Snaker has been given some early gold injection. Now, in terms of scaling threats, they really do want this Kai'Sa to be strong. He needs to be able to get into that backline and have enough DPS to kind of hold his own, right? In the same way we saw Dudu using aggressive summoners on the Sivir to really get stuck in these plays, this is what Kai'Sa is designed for. We need Snaker to be in a strong position so he can contest people like Dudu, people like Feisty as this game goes on. As Los trying to back away from the bot side jungle, but Toplop doesn't want to let them. Bookie's come in with a stun, and lovely follow-up by Enga. It's clean as you like, and the second kill for Leviathan.
There we go. This is exactly what Leviathan needs to affect their draft. We talked about if they can't get these advantages early, they're going to be walking into monstrous 5v5 potential from Los Grandes. All things being even, Los Grandes' draft is just so much stronger in the fight. But this is where Leviathan's draft shines, moving around the map together, finding this pick potential. They get the shove back from the Talia, the stun in there from, both their jungler and their support. And that's going to allow them to just find another small advantage. And Drake Hero got caught again, kind of with a little bit of the greed. I feel like that's happened to a couple of the Los Grandes players so far today. Where we're like, we're gonna go forwards and get the gold.
I'm not sure if he was if they were waiting for a trap maybe, but then we're like, hang on, I think they know we're here and they're bringing more people than we're comfortable with. Let's try and get out of here. But they did not get out in time, so I'm not sure what. Maybe Lost was trying to set up for a play, tried to back away, and Leviathan grabbed them by the ankle on the way out the door. Picks up a second kill. Bookie now 1-0-1. Devist and Zest going pretty close down to it, flashing from the cannon, but a kill with Devist wins the 1v1. Oh my goodness, Bren, this entire game has flipped on its head from last time.
Whoa, Devist flash. I was like, why is he flashing forward? Shouldn't he go under the tower? And he dodges the shuriken and picks up a kill with the hyper proc passive. Hello, my guys in the top lane just throwing hands. That is exactly what you want to see. We signed up for having fun here. I think that's you're like, hey, I want to cast CBLOL English. What do we do here? We have fun.
We do. We have a blast. We certainly do have a blast. And so we can see this as Zest thinks he's won it, right? He sees the mini Gnar. He's got the passive stacked up. He flashes in.
Gets and the electrocute.
And yeah, the shuriken just goes wide, man. And little surprise, ooh, love that from Enetron and the coaching staff. As Ackerman,
you can see the coaching staff breathe the sigh of relief.
Yeah, we see Bookie flashing in for the stun onto Ackerman. There's no kill there, and here comes the Rise rotation. This is not looking good for Lev. 4 versus 3. Bookie already used the summoner aggressively, cannot get away. Toplop is going to get locked up by the Rune Prison. Is there any more CC to follow it up? He's back to the turret. The splashing Qs don't have quite the damage as Leviathan continue to run for the hills. Feisty's come around the corner, flashes in for more damage. Snaker kind of body blocking right now, but he's going to end up giving his life over. And they will find the kill that they need. Los Grandes pick up 2 on bot side. Now Devist and Zest once again trading ultimates. Zest wins out the fight there, but does not find a kill.
Such an interesting exchange here in the top side. In the bot side, it's just unfortunate. They use everything going forward, but we talked about the global potential of a lot of these, Leviathan players being able to roam around. Perhaps we, didn't give enough credence to there's a Rise on the enemy team, and that means he's able to approach from so much further away, so much less time to respond than you would otherwise have. Bookie, like you said, without the flash there, and they're going to go under their tower. And I'm not really sure what the right call is here, right? You can't stay under your tower, you're going to get dived. And I understand that Snaker was trying to get Toplop out and does successfully do so, but in exchange, it gives over his own life. Probably should have let Toplop die there.
Fall on the sword for that one. As Devist is, well, there's 4 people setting up around his tower. They don't have a Rise ultimate, and Bookie has not got the HP to really play this. Ackerman is in the Baron pit right now. Talia is rotating, but Devist is already being dived and has already died. Enga arrives, gets a knockback onto the Jarvan, but this is now a 2v4 that Leviathan, I really don't think you won.
Yeah, no, and now it's Los's turn to get on the map, be proactive. They've said, okay, you guys had your fun in the early game. You got us,
good one. Yeah,
okay.
good one.
But now we have like two components, so our champs are stronger than yours. So we're gonna hit you in the head really hard now.
Yeah, and it's hit them. They did a couple of great kind of rotations coming through from Los, mechanical resilience to get from the aggression by Leviathan in bot lane, and then a beautiful dive set up in top side. Leviathan behind the curve to respond. So Los have completely resolved that early struggle. They are now 500 gold ahead. No objectives picked up on either side right now. The Void Grubs and the first Chemtech Drake both ignored thus far. And both teams certainly in a position to fight over it. They've got the level 6s. Once those ultimates come back off cooldown, they could both put together a play. We've seen success on either side already.
Yeah, we do see the dragon is kind of the objective that is the priority right now for Leviathan. As you see, if you guys have Dudu in fantasy there on the side, if you picked Dudu on Sivir, you made bank last game. 43 fantasy points. That's a cool little pop-up. I do like the fantasy pop-up just to show you how sick that guy was on that pick. But
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we are going to see the red side first dragon finally for Leviathan. I think they're going to take it with a relative little issue. See what the response is from Los, because this Jarvan still is on the bottom side. They're not immediately trading out these grubs. And they don't really have the tools for a dive when Leviathan are such high health. So I'm not sure what Los Grandes is going to look for.
Yeah, Devas fishes for an ultimate in top side, but maybe just clears the wave out with it. No harm done in top there. So Los kind of opt just to get a little bit more gold in the coffers, bot lane and jungle there, picking up camps and lanes, while Leviathan do pick up that first Drake. So again, starting the stacking up for Leviathan. The grubs now look like they are going to be the focus. Ackerman, Drake Hero rotating up to that top side, Bookie coming out on top side as well, Toplop coming through mid lane. So again, both of these teams, I think, are in a position to fight over it. We don't have a Gnar ultimate, that must be said. That cooldown, while not long, is currently not available, as Bookie might end up getting ambushed before he gets a chance to play this. Drake Hero's around the corner, finds the knockup, Ackerman getting into range, but Talia is there to interrupt the play, and the DPS from Talia certainly more than Alistar can offer. Ackerman has to burn the heal, and Leviathan, I think, are probably pretty happy with that, as long as Bookie doesn't get caught in his own jungle. There's a lot of people in there still.
Bookie, don't farm it, Bookie.
Oh, he's caught out the Rune Prison. The Cataclysm forces the flash. Ackerman flashes over the wall for headbutt pop on the tower to get the solo kill at the end of it. Unbelievable play from the Alistar. Devas now looking to see what he can do. Remember, doesn't have the Mega Gnar still, and Feisty with Ghost popped is not catchable. So Bookie still falls. Ackerman making that play work.
Yeah, Devast had Mega Gnar, but no Mega Gnar.
Oh, again.
Goes forward, doesn't have the damage, and here it comes. He's huge slicing Maelstrom.
That's unbelievable stuff. Lovely play from Ackerman's Alistar in this passage of play upside here. Bookie with a Grand Star forward from topside. Devast is going to be able to slow them for a long, long time. Drake Hero not going to be able to escape. So Leviathan, they'll pick something else up on the back end of that one, but it's still 1 for 2 in favor of Los. And Lev will look to pick up the grubs to try and even it out.
Yeah. Well, at least they get a little something. I gotta say, that Alistar flash smooth into the the headbutt pulverize under the tower. I thought it was like, I was like, how did they get Kaisa on blue side? That because he moved from so far across the screen.
3 times bigger than I remember. Why is she so bulky? Why does she have horns, bro? What's going on? This is... What do they do to this chance? This is a skin, but no, it's just Ackerman, bro. He's 2, 1, and 3 on this Alistar. He stifled the bot lane play from Lev. He dives the top lane tier 2 to get that kill, and then gets the second engage later in that fight to set up Zest for the ultimate. This has been a stellar early game from the low support.
Yeah, and Ackerman, like we said, no slouch in the last game. 0-17 on that Karma. So having a good series for himself so far. And in the top side, they only end up taking 1 grub and then kind of abandoning it, not wanting to overstay, not wanting to get punished for taking too much. Los doesn't know that, but might suspect it at this point, not having seen the grub, pop up on screen. Hey, the enemy took this camp. So I wonder, we do see the J4 in mid lane, if they might look to maybe get a pick and then path over to that
Okay.
Was that like a visual bug?
I'm not sure, but Leviathan does manage to escape it. Enga flashes away and survives. Toplop doesn't find the Zenith Blade onto Ackerman. The engage loss only comes to trades on both sides. Bookie and Drake Hero, both ready in the wings if they are needed. Snaker just wants to pick up the farm under his tower if that's quite alright with everybody else. As W2D2 now 20 CS up on this Yunara is once again primed to and step into that carry position once again. Toplop doesn't quite find it. Tries to Hex Flash in for the Zenith Blade, but again, does not quite get in range.
Good damage from Inga in the mid lane, trying to trade it back onto Feisty, but Feisty's in a fairly strong position as it is. The Dragon's up in under a minute now, so we're going to see resets coming through across the board there for Los Grandes to see everyone's taking their backs, getting those items on the board. We can see first item throughout the entirety of Los Grandes now, with Feisty having just picked up his Rod of Ages. And so that means, you know, they've got some powerful positions to fight through. Actually, the Yunara with I believe the Kraken Slayer does so much damage into this squishy composition for Leviathan. Once they get the Q online with all 8 stacks, it's just a lot of damage even without the ultimate up, and a trap set here.
Whoa. Okay, the trap was excellent from Ackerman. Knock into the wall, tries to blast cone him over, but Toplop... Oh my god, Snaker is just 1v1ing Dudu while this is all happening. What is going on right here? Leviathan, they just woke up once again. Ackerman with the ult right now. Feisty and Drake Hero don't feel good about it. They rise ult him out of the play, but Enga's around the corner, forces a flash out of Feisty, and Ackerman is picked away. That's a massive set of plays for Lev.
I'm walking away, Trajan. What's happening?
Yeah, bro, chat, he is literally walking around his room. He's away. He stepped away from that. He couldn't take it. He couldn't handle what we're seeing on the screen right now.
That was so much in such a short passage. Like, I'm like, what? Okay, let's start with the trap. Really good setup from Ackerman there. It has to be said.
Yeah.
Really inventive play with the Alistar, knocking them into the wall, then trying to blast cone them over. But just the way Zenith Blade works essentially is a nut to that play. So unfortunate as it is. Then Snaker gets like 2 passive stacks on Dudu. Is like, I can kill this guy. This guy's dead.
I can take him.
And it makes sense. That's what you want to see out of the Kai'Sa early. Definitely at both champs being at one item, you favor the Kai'Sa in the 1v1 with that ultimate. And so makes a lot of sense to take that. And then they transfer it into just one of the goofier dragon fights I've ever seen. They try to rise ult away, but Ackerman, unable to get into the rise ult, still falls. So that's a second drag for Leviathan, which for all intents and purposes keeps them in this game. I do want to point out Toplop. It is 15 minutes. Toplop does not have his support quest finished.
No, he is suffering a little bit in this one. He's a higher level than Ackerman, but doesn't have the quest done, fascinatingly. Because Ackerman has 2 kills and 3 assists, I guess. As Dudu will pick up the first turret in bot side. Enga has been caught up by Zest, and the Kennen, with a gunblade ready, will just 100-0 that to Leah.
Yeah, I like that Kennen has kind of come back into the top lane meta, because he's a very exciting champ to watch, and that's the dangers of playing against one. It's just, you kind of think you're fine, and then just a very snap engage there from Zest is able to, like you said, 100-0 Enga before there's really any response to be had. But other than that, this recent run of play has looked a little bit more favorable for Leviathan. Obviously, they do lose out on, picking up any of the grubs, but they get the Rift Herald instead. And that's a much more valuable camp. No one cares about the grubs, as evidenced by they only killed one of them this game.
Yeah. And he's just farming away. Venga's just trying to play the game, but I think he does stick around a little too long. When Zest pops out of the brush, Zest goes all the way through the mini wave and then just goes, oh, he's actually not left. Okay, well, I guess I can just kill him then. Pops the ultimate, takes it, and now the biggest gold lead in this game is Zest over Devas right now, 1.3k. This Kennen, if he gets into a team fight in the 5v5s, is going to be absolutely deadly. Lev need to still be playing for the picks, playing for the map rotations. We do not want to see them get stuck into a team fight necessarily, as Bookie ults into the river to try and catch Los Grandes, but he's a little behind the curve, and no one's there anymore.
Yeah, I do think that is a great thing to highlight. Like you said, Zest has such a massive gold lead. If he's in the team fight, it's kind of just a formality at that point. But like you said, Leviathan can play around these picks. They have the right comp to do it. So if they can play away from Zest or pick him off early.
Get the stun onto him, but they don't have any follow-up right there. He doesn't have the ultimate right now. Top Plop is low. Duty's going to pick him off. Ackerman holding down the front line. Talia roams in and finds Drake Hero, forces him to retreat. Zest does manage to get away with that. Looks like Leviathan just did not have the pieces in place to fully punish that cannon.
Yeah, I got a pretty sizable shield, gets away, doesn't really care. Like I said, I think the first part of that statement is more the thing I'm looking for. Play away from that cannon, find the people that are isolated in the side lanes, get your picks, then look to play these team fights out when you have the numbers advantage already established. If you can find the cannon somehow, I mean, it is worthwhile, but the only follow-up they could have had is if Snaker, used the ultimate to follow up, and I don't think Zest was low enough to warrant that. So does get away, does cost them a little bit of that tempo on the map for Leviathan's sake. They lose their top tower. And so now we're back into this kind of farming back and forth, waiting to see what will happen next. The next objective is a dragon up in 1 minute. It is a Cloud Soul, it must be said.
Yeah.
And if you're Kennen, you are salivating at that prospect.
Yeah, love the extra mobility to get deep into that backline in the team fights, as Lost will be approaching it with over 4,000 of a gold lead in the bank, ready to play. 35 seconds now on the Cloud Drake, 50 on the Baron. A single big team fight win could break this game wide open for Los Grandes. They're already comfortable. Leviathan barely holding on right now, already down 0-1. If they lose here, the series will come to a close. And their start to split one will continue on its downward trajectory as Dudu now takes control of that mid lane. Pop in some plates with the crystal growth build-up, and we're waiting to see what the opportunity is going to be for Lev. They do have great pick-making potential, but they have to find that person just slightly isolated from the team, taking the greedy path, rotating to a side lane, and maybe just force the issue if no obvious opportunity presents.
Yeah, they're going to see Drake Hero taking the scuttle here in the top side, but they know that Zest isn't very far away. The Baron is up. The Dragon is up as well. Wherever we find this next skirmish, it's not going to be one of those nothing burger fights over just the kill gold. We're going to see some serious tempo, some serious objective play come up with this next fight. And so it's going to be kind of around who gets the right positioning, who can pull that trigger first. You see that Leviathan is in a good position, wants to start at the Dragon, but keep in mind, Zest has the TP. He's pushing in that top side, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him a TP and immediately drop an ulti, assuming he gets a good ward, a good position to come to.
Look at those flank wards behind top right of the screen right there. He's got two choices. Leviathan, they're looking to commit. Zest starts channeling the TP. Leviathan trying to back away, but they're going to funnel right into this choke point, Brett. It's awful for Leviathan.
It's perfect.
In comes the cannon, slicing Maelstrom onto 3. One goes down, the second to follow. Double for Dudu, 3 dead for Leviathan. And it's just textbook, Bren. We could see the writing on the wall. Loss didn't even have to ask Leviathan to walk into that position for them. But that's going to be whatever they want in terms of objectives. The Baron seems to be the first choice.
Incredibly strong understanding of the game there from Los Grandes. They played the position perfectly. They knew exactly how they wanted the position. They were like, we're going to posture here and force Leviathan back, knowing, we're spending some resources just to get some chip damage. And Leviathan, respecting that, are backing up, but Los Grandes know about the wards. Leviathan does not. Like we said, a very well executed flank TP that is going to turn immediately into a Baron. Now, Deva's trying to find Ackerman on the backside, take away at least one of those purple cloaks.
Yeah, well.
Does find the kill, so it's not nothing. They're going to use their Herald in the mid lane. So it's actually the gold going over to Leviathan to start this Baron power play.
And Lev, they tried to find an angle onto Zest, heading too close to that turret as well, but Top Lop couldn't quite tag him with the Zenith Blade. Mid lane outer does fall. So the gold lead, still, it's basically flat from the Baron power play itself. Still 7,000 gold, the lead for Los Grandes. You can see that team fight. All of the carries from this Los Grandes roster pulling their weight. And Leviathan, when they walk into that trap, there's just no good way for them to play it. They're instantly running before the fight's even started, and they cannot get out.
Yeah, and that's how you want to see this kind of the kind of current iteration of pro play with that 3 or 4 carry composition that kind of everyone is playing at least a little bit of damage sans your support, and even sometimes your support gets in on the action for the 2 kills that Ackerman has. Is you kind of want to see that even damage spread. Everybody's contributing, everybody's finding their place in the fight, and Los Grandes have been executing at a really, really high level so far this series. The first game, obviously, we couldn't sing their praises high enough, and in the second game, it's been a little goofy at moments, but overall, it's just been like outside of those first few minutes where Leviathan was playing nice and proactive and had that early power, Los Grandes kind of locked in, and from there on, Leviathan has been able to find things on the back end, find compensation, consolation prizes, but they're kind of always the bridesmaid and never the bride. And Los Grandes are having a big 3,000 person wedding in the day.
Yeah, the Leviathan are able to find plays and find some purchase in this match. It's not been as much of a wash as game 1 was, but Los are always there getting the last laugh at the end of the day. Third Drake picked up by Lev, so they have managed to reach Cloud Soul Point, but they've got to last 5 more minutes in this game, Bren, with the Baron buff still ticking away. 45 seconds on that left, and there's plenty of turrets to go down for Los Grandes still, so they have one sort of route into getting that buff, and it's really just denying it from Los Grandes at this point. If you can try and stretch this game all the way to an Elder Flip, maybe that's the way Leviathan find their way back in, but Los are very buttoned up on this push, not leaving isolated members at risk of catching, and starting to knock down the turrets with the easy methodical pushes.
Yeah, they're finding, like you said, not setting up any member to be alone for all too long. Very, buttoned up, very textbook correct play of the League of Legends map here. Getting around Summoner's Rift, in making sure you have your buddy with you, never leaving anyone alone in that enemy jungle, and they're just moving very cohesively. They find another just chunk of gold in that bottom lane. Now they might find another pick here. Toplop is all alone.
Yeah, Toplop in the jungle, I think, trying to find a flank of his own, but Los Grandes catch him in the act. And he's not going to be able to escape here, do they? With a big Kraken Slayer crits. Knocks him over without a second thought. And we'll head back to that mid turret as well. Leviathan, I mean, credit to Toplop. He's been trying to make action happen, trying to find catches and picks. But ultimately, he hasn't been able to get the Zenith Blades he needs, hasn't been connecting on the solar flares that he needs. And when he's going for the flanks, he's getting discovered before Lev can get into position. It's just not working out for the Lev support today.
Yeah, it's definitely, and unfortunately, because I think Leona is a very interesting champion to just watch. I think there's a lot of just fun things you can do, just locking someone down, seeing how someone chooses to engage, because they're not the traditional way. Traditional way you peel for your carries is to kind of wait for people to get onto them, push them away, kind of zone areas off. Leona mostly is just like, oh, you're gonna engage onto my AD carry? Well, then I'm gonna engage onto your AD carry. Just like this, actually.
Yeah, they have call out Feisty. They've got a flash into the Baron Pit. The Realm Warp is gonna get him away, but again, we just can't get them over the line, Bren. We're so close for Lev to finding these picks, but they just can't ever seem to make it work.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's just kind of like a bit of the wallet diff. Feisty has those 2 completed items with the Seeker's arm guard as well. And that
so tough.
You can't tell me that extra shielding and that extra armor didn't matter there, because the guy just barely gets away. And again, Leviathan is kind of generally looking for the right plays. And
round 2, we've got Zest this time, but he's popped the ultimate and he's just blown Edgar's head off. Bucky is dropping low as well. Toplop this time has arrived to get the stuns in order. And there's the counter kill. But again, it's the picks. We can't get them clean, Bren. Either we lose them at the last second or we make them a 1-for-1. And now we've lost mid lane control. It's just demoralizing, man.
Like I said, Leviathan, they're kind of generally looking for the right stuff. And I think that's good to see. It's nice to see, hey, they're not giving up. They are still looking for plays, and they're generally looking for them in the right spots, as evidenced by them just kind of being close. But no Cigar, they're just far enough behind at this stage that it's hard to get, like you said, get those picks over the line, get those plays to completion. Now we do have a Baron up in 12 seconds. And at that time, Leviathan do have a man advantage, like seeing the ghost here for the mid laner, going to allow them to rapidly reposition back into whatever fight they need to be into. And it might be this one here in the mid lane.
Duty. They got the cleanse, but there's no follow-up. Duty will simply backstep it, reposition, and start churning out the DPS. Straker goes in deep with the Cataclysm, and he slips away. Snaker has the killer instinct into the backline to stop him getting away with that one. But he's put himself on the wrong side of the map, but he's not going to be able to contribute more to this play. A solid effort by Leviathan, but they cannot lock down Duty. They cannot find the catches that they want. And ultimately, it's another lost team fight. And this Yunara is barreling down the mid lane, doesn't want to wait for the next fight. We're 28 minutes in, almost exactly when game number 1 ended, SuperBren. And this is Lost putting in another textbook win. A little bit more that we saw from Lev in this game, that's for sure, but certainly not enough to topple Los Grandes.
No, Los Grandes, like we said, they're a tough opponent. They kind of have been all year. They didn't look great come the playoff best of fives. But like we said, they've been hard at work in the offseason. They seem to have remedied that a little bit. Just as strong here in or maybe not quite as strong, but still plenty strong here in game 2 as compared to game 1. So good to see that improvement from Los continuing to play out the full series. And Leviathan, I feel like we're always kind of saying this, and I think it's a good thing to have this to constantly say about your sort of bottom teams in the league. We said it about Fluxu for quite a while. We said it about Leviathan many, many times. There are still things to look forward to, and that's good. Even if the bottom teams still have these moments, these things where we can say they were close, right? How many times to say, oh, they were close? That's better than, well, it's woefully disparate and there's no chance. So
yeah,
not nothing for this Leviathan squad, but still a long way to go for this the remainder of this split.
Yeah, absolutely. Long way to go is right. I think that there's pieces for them to build on, right? We still see, as much as Devast kind of, that game 1 was a bit of a nightmare, he did manage to clutch out the 1v1 in that second series, right, against Zest, and that's kind of what both of these guys bring. Like, Devast has the hands, Enga and Bucky were getting good 2v2 kind of skirmishes off early on, and we saw the clutch factor kind of out of Snaker finding a pick or two down there, but it's just not, I think Lost is not the best matchup for them. I think Lost really just dominates through that early laning phase. It's kind of like Furia, right? We saw that for Leviathan, even when they had Seo in bot side in the CBLOL Cup playoffs. After Lev had dispatched VKS, they went on to Furia, and Furia just completely cleaned them out, just because the early lane dominance from these kind of teams does put Leviathan on such a back foot that they can't really mount anything. I think they rely on having an advantage to play through for their mechanical players like Devas, like Bucky, and previously like Seo. And without that, I don't think they really often have a good way to get back into a game, to play from behind. It seems like they're struggling to kind of play outside of quite a narrow set of conditions,
Yeah, I definitely agree. It would be nice, like, again, we saw moments where they were close to finding some ways back into the game and had almost the Dragon Soul, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So
yeah,
there were there was no Ziggs and no Hecarim on the map today.
No.
So it does not quite do it for us. And like Leviathan, at least we know what they need to improve on, and they had some moments where, okay, maybe they could like claw it back, some improvement, but still, like I said, quite a ways to go.
Quite a ways to go. So we shall see what they can show us in the future. For Los Grandes, though, they're certainly looking happy. And as I said before, I cannot wait to see these guys against their other top teams, against Red, against VKS. That's what I'm really excited to see. And potentially against Loud as well, depending on how they shake up around the corner. But for now, time to go for a break. We'll be back with our second series of the day, which will be VKS versus Furia, everybody. So you do not want to miss that. That is shaping up to be potentially our series of the week. I know it's going to deliver, so we'll see you all back here in just a few minutes for that. We'll see you then. Hello everybody, welcome back to the CBLOL English. Time for our second series of the day. Los Grandes locking up the 2-0 win over Leviathan, and it is now time for Vivo Cade Stars versus Furia. Furia coming off a 1-2 loss to Los Grandes in the first week, and VKS after a powerful 2-0 start. They look like they're right back where they left off last year, but we'll have to see how long that holds against an opponent like Furia.
Yeah, I mean, VKS, like we talked about kind of earlier, they made a lot of changes and got a lot of scrutiny. Now they had, like we said, a very powerful 2-0 start, but it was against Pain Gaming, right?
Yeah.
So how much does it matter? How much does it matter? We'll find out today, right?
We will. Yeah, I think that, Pain certainly are struggling with all the changes and kind of tumult that they've gone through as an organization in 2026. They are certainly still not on a stable footing. But VKS, at the very least, looks like they might be, right? They have got the introduction of Seo taking the place of Morteus, and he looks like he's slotted in very, very well, as did their new jungler, new top laner, I should say, Wiser, ex-Pain mainstay, after about a year of retirement, I think, has now stepped back into the competitive field and looks right at home on VKS as well.
Yeah, and I'm so enamored with that one split we got of Bull just being an absolute demon on the Rift. But I think VKS recognized probably the same as any of us can if we become a little more objective, that it was a bit of an outlier, I think, for Bull's career to perform at that high of a level. And if Wiser's going to step in and get the job done, CL has said multiple times that yes, there's a long-term plan in place, but part of that long-term plan has to involve being at least competitive right now. And if VKS, if this is what gets them over the line, I feel like we've really just been waiting for them to realize their potential. They got the one domestic split. They looked real good at that, LTA championship to cap off the lifespan of the LTA there. But coming back into CBLOL play, they haven't looked at their best. We're going to see if they can have some continued form. I'm hoping for 3 games. I hope for close games.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see, the start of the draft has kicked off here. Furia on the red side with first pick have taken the Pantheon first for Tattoo, a mainstay for him. And VKS answering with another Karma and a Xin Zhao to pair up there as well, leaving the bot lane a pick for now as Furia slam the Ashe Seraphine, a very common pairing for Io and Jojo, and looks like VKS are going to take the Ezreal Karma that has been proffered to them. We did see VKS dismantle an Ezreal Karma combination with a Sivir Yumi of their own in that Pain series, but they are happy to take that 2v2 duo themselves, and that does give them a pretty fearsome mid-game and lane threat there with the Xin Zhao coming out of jungle, Ezreal Karma in bot lane. It's a very strong early start.
Yeah, Ezreal Karma is a really powerful pairing. Ezreal not necessarily having the greatest run of it domestically, but that's just because he's been a really popular pick, and I think people are opting to play around him. With the Karma, it's going to make his early game pretty tough to deal with. I do like the Ashe Seraphine, right? Seraphine no longer has to invest into that early Rylai's Crystal Scepter to be able to get those stuns down. Going to be an exceptional pairing together, but the mage kind of can struggle depending on how the game state goes. It's going to require careful piloting, I feel, by that Furia bot lane. Yes,
for sure. We know that Jojo particularly, I think, is almost certainly the best Seraphine in the league. They were the Ashe Seraphine, as mainstay as it has now become. It was used by Furia as a bot lane pairing, very early on into their run as a squad last year. They're making more use of it than almost anyone else. As the second ban rotations come through, Gnar has been taken away by VKS, Akali denied by Furia, and of course Gigo, as up and down as he is, he has played against Wiser many times. Wiser, I think we would generally say, more of a consistent, more of a reliable threat, but without necessarily the same peaks as Gigo, who obviously has that volatility that we know him so well for.
They're scared. That's why they're banning the Gnar.
Yeah.
They know that Pantheon. They
don't want to see that flex up to top lane. Yeah, they don't want to see it.
Put the Gnar in the jungle.
Dude, we cannot.
I'm never letting them live that down.
We cannot let them. To be clear, we cannot let Furia get away with that. They have to be reminded.
They
always
just did that on stage.
That they threw a whole stage game with Gnar jungle. As we see the leaked draft right here, we have an Ivern being hovered right now for Sayo.
Yeah, and then
and
Kled
a
support.
Kled support currently hovered, waiting in the wings for Kaiwing. So we'll see if that actually is going to happen. Looks like Asante is going to be the choice instead. So Weiser going into that blind top side, it kind of does preclude, ideally, it's already kind of pre-preps a Rumble answer, but you can also just tank it up. It does leave a potential Gi Gwen angle to try and slice through the tanks. But it would leave Furia without any real actual tank line. So we'll see what the choice is going to be here.
I am going to double check because I remember when Cassante came out and we were like, please, for the love of God, Brazilian teams, stop playing Cassante. This guy is terrible. Like, you guys just can't make him work. I feel like, I'm going to double check myself. I feel like Weiser is one of the few guys that, like, was on it from the beginning when it came to Cassante. Like, kind of just, like, had him figured out and was using this pick to its full potential. So I do actually trust it in his hands.
Yeah.
I am interested to see how the Mbessa and the Cassante match into each other at this level, because I feel like they kind of both want a similar thing, and that sort of like we want to weave abilities and autos and scrap with one another. But I'm not sure exactly who comes out the better of it, as we see the Rise as the final pickup there for Toots in the mid lane. Going to be very happy with that pick. It's a very popular one, kind of internationally, but especially here in the CBLOL. And are we gonna finally see the Anivia into the Rise? I feel like it's threatened every week. There we go. Finally, we see the Anivia picked as the Rise counter here for Miryu. I'm very interested to see it, because we always talk about it. This Anivia is a good answer to Rise. It's a good answer to Rise. Why isn't anyone picking it? Well, now we're going to finally get some answers about that question.
Yeah, we certainly are. Tuts, of course, he's never going to be upset with getting a Rise in the hands of this guy, but Miryu has come back into Split 1 looking revitalized compared to the Cup. He was very off his game in the CBLOL Cup, I think everyone would agree. But he came back in against Pain, was picking mechanical champions, and was doing huge amounts of work on them. Now, the Anivia is a little bit more restricted in that regard. There's only so much mechanical outplay you can pull off with this champ, but wall placings, stun placings, there is kind of a little bit of potential there, and as you say, it's a great answer into the Rise. So Tuts is going to have his work cut out for him. Now, I don't feel bad necessarily for Furia about this. I think Tuts is actually a guy who does deal very well into the stronger mid laners we have, the Kazes, the Miryus, right? Like, he is someone who can absorb pressure quite well. He doesn't necessarily hit the same massive peaks as those guys, but he is able to go toe-to-toe with them and always be useful despite the situation he's put into.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of excited. Overall, this matchup, it has so much potential to just be a real absolute banger. Like you said, real game of the week, match of the week kind of thing. And I kind of like the draft. Not necessarily that either team had like an exceptionally crazy strong draft, but it feels like both teams are kind of playing to a lot of the strengths that they have. Obviously, the only thing maybe is that Miryu usually is on a bit more of a dynamic champ when VKS is at their best, but Anivia still is no slouch, and I do like that. Hey, Miryu's a guy that I feel like wants to win lane, and we've given him a counter pick to win lane. So yeah, I want to see these teams go after it. Like, they have drafts that I think suit what each team wants to do.
Yeah, absolutely, right. I would certainly expect to see a certain result from Miryu if they're giving him these kind of resources, that draft priority, and the matchup that he has. On the other side, Tatu has the Pantheon, right? As the biggest engine of success for Furia. We see how much Furia suffers when you put their jungler on a useless champion, like Gnar, for example. However, when you put him on Pantheon, when you put him on Jarvan, when you put him on Xin Zhao, this guy can drive the entire team's success from that position. Pantheon is maybe even the best champion for him to influence the map in the way that he does. So I think Furia, they're certainly taking this matchup seriously. They are not trolling the draft. They are drafting in they're using their premier bot lane combination as Seraphine, premier jungle in Pantheon for Tatu, and then they've got their kind of almost premier mid laner for Tuts and Rise, right? Honestly, it's a draft of power picks for Furia in game 1 against VKS. This should give us a great test of the team's skill and power against each other.
Yeah, as we're getting here onto the Rift, I'm kind of wondering where we're going to see the driving force who's going to be the engine for both teams, because we've talked a lot about every individual player here, and I think for good reason. On their day, any single individual in this, out of all 10 of them, from every position, could be that driving engine for their team. We do like to look at, Miryu's high skill threshold, but Desamis, obviously, in the jungle, has been such a, steady hand for VKS. We've seen how good CO has looked, not before his debut on VKS, and how much better VKS has looked with him there in the bot lane. We know Kai Wing at the international level has been brilliant, and Weiser is such, a long-term resident of the Brazil pro scene at this point. But on the other side, Gigo, Tatu, Toots, Ayu, Jojo, all of them have their insanely high highs. And so it could be genuinely anyone, and that's very exciting.
Yes, you see the lanes starting to clash right now. One of the other threads that I'm looking to try and follow here is how Kaiwing and Desamis kind of interact, if they do at all, in this game, right? Because one of the main ways that the BKS was struggling initially in the Trimby era was they couldn't get Desamis and Trimby onto the same page. They weren't rowing in the same direction. The laning was suffering for VKS while they were settling in, and the support jungle synergy wasn't there. Now, we saw the same problem with Kaiwing at the start in the CBLOL Cup. However, the entire team environment, as we later learned, was kind of borked at that point. It was kind of just a broken system. And we're seeing so far in that Pain series, we didn't see too much connection between Desamis and Kaiwing still, but they were playing a different way. It did not necessarily hinder them to play in this way. So I want to see now if we're going to still see that kind of separation without that jungle support link up, or if Seo and Kaiwing are going to really be focusing on the bot side. They do have Ezreal Karma as a combination, for good reason, or if we're going to start to see that change a little bit, because ultimately it is potentially something that has been a problem for BKS in the past. Now, Desamis is rotated towards mid right now. There's a stun onto Tuts. He's flashed in. Wind becomes lightning. There's the charge. Looking for a knock-up. Can't find it, as the ghost from Rise will get him out of dodge.
I talked about this.
We're flashing for a chain onto Ayu here as well from Seo and Kaiwing. That was a highly aggressive maneuver. Jojo is pretty low, but and they get the ghost out of Ayu, but my word, that was very aggro.
It's incredibly aggro. As I was saying, in the previous series, I like the adaptation that we've seen from a lot of laners this season to be bringing Ghost more often, especially in the mid lane. I think it's a really powerful spell and can allow you a lot of options into, Mirya, who, like we said, is relatively immobile, doesn't really have any way to get away. If you just hop the Ghost at the right time, you can run them down. Toots obviously uses it defensively and is able to just walk it out. We're already seeing a heavy amount of hands trading here in the early game.
Absolutely. Weiser is going to win out early on against Gigo's Ambessa. And it isn't, I think, not necessarily a matchup that either side wins particularly. I'm not expecting to see a huge amount of kill threat here, unless somebody goes over aggressive in this lane or the junglers get very heavily involved. But we did see Gigo's Ambessa struggle quite a lot against Zest's Jace in the first week, so he'd be looking to redeem himself just a little bit, as VKS are building marginal leads across the board, largely in that top side, mid and bot as well, very slightly ahead. And we're waiting to see what the first move is going to be, I think, from Tatu on this Pantheon. Likes to get stuck in, and as we said, likes to drive Furia forward in that early game. And he has some lanes that are going to be pushing into him, so he's going to have some choices to attack.
Yeah, Tatu is currently, like I said, on his Wolves, and both lanes, the mid and the bot, pushing forward here, has some options for where he wants to look. I imagine, though, we're going to see, just some power farming out of the guy, getting that ultimate, not only because of the movement, but also, we've mentioned it a couple of times. They just gave him 20% armor pen as a passive. He just does that now. So, obviously that's a huge power spike just to have that. You essentially get, a third of an item worth of stats there?
So does Gigo, right?
That's
I think Gigo gets armor pen on his ultimate.
Yes, does also get armor pen on his ultimate as a passive.
Yeah,
just for free. So everybody just running for 6. I imagine Tatu now taking some aggressive pathing to get in behind VKS here. This could be something.
Now, Desamus is ready and waiting in the river. I don't know if he sees him just yet. Kyron and Seo do have the health advantage. I think they smell something might be up. Tati's going to appear on vision. Who are they going to go for? Looking for the stun onto Kaiwing, and there's the beat drop to follow up. The damage is just more than enough. First blood for Tati.
That early damage from the Pantheon, nothing to sneeze at, just has the longsword, and it's going to make it your problem. A great, like we said, aggressive pathing, wrapping around, and Tatu. We talked about him as a driving force in the early game for Furia, getting it done here, getting the first blood, picking up his gun reset and get another longsword, get back out on the map. Now has Tunneler, 2 longswords, and his little jungle pet in the inventory is going to be, kind of threatening very quickly here. Is already level 5. Talk about level 6 giving you, 20% armor pen is a huge amount of stats just for hitting a level up. So, got to be a very, very threatening Pantheon very, very soon.
Furia getting that wave pushed out as Tatu contesting with the Samus over this scuttler right now. Miri is going to be the first to move from mid lane. Rise is going to be ulting down potentially, but gets knocked out of it by Miri. Samus though dropping very low. The heal is out, but he's already knocked over. Furia stepping up, contesting VKS with their full chest, and they get their second kill for Pantheon.
They do get a second kill onto the Pantheon, and that's going to be the Dragon as well here, as the Samus is dead. Going to have to leg it all the way back over here, and they have the Prio in the bot lane. They have that wave pushing in. Are likely going to pick up a plate here because of the crystalline growth. So a good early game here for Furia. I think a bit too aggressive from Desamus there contesting that scuttle.
Yeah, we can see he did not have the powers. You see the replay, and the mid laners are scrapping up topside, right? Neither of them are going to be able to cleanly get their head of the other. And it seems like VKS are just losing on a straight damage race.
Yeah, like Pantheon, man, it's just Pantheon. That guy does so much damage early on. Yeah. Ashe and Seraphine, obviously, good follow up there. They have, the mage to get the extra CC down, get that extra damage at range. Ashe providing a slow in addition. But Pantheon, man, so strong early on. Like I said, Tunneler and 2 longswords, more than enough for him to just go in and kind of clobber you over the head. Does not particularly care at this stage of the game. Now it has that level 6. We can see some more scrapping in the top side as Wiser and Gigo kind of continue to go at it. Neither really getting advantage over the other. About a wave worth of farm is Wiser to the good, but beyond that, not much to look for.
Ult's committed on top side right now. The public execution from Gigo. He's looking for a bit more damage, but Wiser just holds the buttons. And ultimately, it's a small health lead built, but still down in CS. So Wiser handling this very, very well. Gigo a little bit stressed, perhaps, in that matchup, as Furia are still holding on to a 1.5k gold lead. First Mountain Drake for them as well, with the gold all centered on that jungler at Tatu. This is kind of the quintessential Furia game path. And now it's up for VKS to try and disrupt it. Because if they don't disrupt it, Furia tend to be pretty clinical when it comes to playing with the lead.
Yeah, they try not to throw very often, and they most of the time succeed because they are just, like I said, very strong through the team fight. Clinical is a great word for it. Just very clean, well executed mid to late games kind of tends to be the Furia motto. As long as they can get that advantage in the early game, they're usually not sweating as the game goes on. So we're going to have to look to VKS to make something happen.
Yeah, they play with a lot of confidence with the lead, and normally that is kind of the key to success. If you're all just willing to commit to a play with a gold lead, you're probably going to win it on kind of an even day, right? And Furia seem very confident in putting themselves into a good position and betting on themselves, leading to those very swift conclusions of games when they pick up those leads. As Furia now working on those top grubs. Tatu, uncontested right now. Desamus is away on the bot side working on his Raptors, so it will be the second objective over to Furia as well. As we check in on the mid lane, see Tuts and Miryu just kind of farming it away. Small advantage in the CS department for Miryu, but Tuts has already picked up a plate, so they're basically dead even.
Dead even on the gold, and you talked about that second objective. This is kind of the advantage of Pantheon getting that lead early. Already has the first item, as you can see. Desamus does not have the same, so his clear is considerably faster, and being able to get that dragon off of the first kind of skirmish they had, getting that kill, taking the dragon, means that now with a faster clear, he's uncontested coming into these later objectives. it is going to be Desamas getting this bot scuttle, but it's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things here at 10 minutes into the game. Gonna look to see where the next bit of action happens. Like you said, there's not another drag for 2 minutes, and the Herald isn't up for a considerable amount of time. The top laners again are they're fighting, but it thought they're kind of doing the meatball thing where they're both top laners.
Yeah, we're kind of just waiting for some sort of play to be put together. Normally we'd expect it by Furia because they have the Pantheon, of course, but Xin Zhao is a very strong scrapper early on, and Desamas, once he gets that first item, will be able to contest as we have fights in topside. In comes the Pantheon ult. Grand Starfall onto Weiser, does not put himself in the wrong spot, doesn't give Weiser a free trip over the wall, but Rise now ulting it as well. Tut's getting in on the action.
And Weiser find
as
one.
Gigo drops awful low, but it is still going to be a kill for Furia.
Yeah, Weiser, did a lot of good things there in that play. Oh, the Ezreal ult does not connect on to Gigo. Nearly took out Gigo there. If it was not for that rotation from Tuts up to the top side, it would have been kind of an unfortunate play to expend 2 ultimates and only get, the 1-for-1. But now they expended 3 ultimates to get that kill, and that does give Miryu a bigger advantage in the mid lane. You can see he's starting to stack up that farm lead now, picked up a plate for himself, and so is more than happy with that play. Said, hey, it's okay, Weiser. I'll take care of it from here.
Furia going to be happy with this continuing success. So far, basically nothing has been done by VKS on the map. It's been all Furia making plays. Here we go. Desamas now getting a bit bored with that, wants to step up, but he's been kind of chunked out by Furia. Has to ult and flash back to safety. Jojo not looking too healthy, but he can sit in the back as a Seraphine. And Furia come out with another win in the scrap. Going to clear out some of the vision from VKS.
I'm interested to watch that back because Desamas just immediately takes the win, becomes lightning, dashes in, and kind of no fear, but there should have been some fear. He was outnumbered 3-1 in that brush, and I wonder if he just didn't see the full extent of the enemy team before taking that dash in. Oh, the dragon is the next objective. It is up. We are kind of jockeying for position, but it is Furia again, first to the objective, just going to take control over that river. And VKS saying, we can't really contest this, but eventually they're going to have to contest something because now they are down 3 neutrals to none, 3 kills to none, and I think 3 or 4 plates to 1. So going to be a tough position for VKS to continue to play this out.
Yeah, the fights they have picked in, hang on a second, IU has to flash away from the root. Well played by Seo and Kaiwing to catch him out there. The Ezreal ult will not connect. IU and Jojo have to flee back to the turret, not looking too healthy. They lost the flash and the ghost and the heal from this Ashe Seraphine combination. So VKS does find a small advantage right there, but the dragon already done. Nothing really around this side of the map to play for. Furia, I think, aren't too sad about it.
And the good wave clear there from Furia, good discipline to just use their AoE tools, focus down this wave, prevents Seo from getting in to break the crystalline growth, which would have almost certainly been a plate, almost a half of the next plate at this stage with the amount of damage Seo does, especially with that Ezreal W on top of the tower. Would have been a considerable chunk he would have taken, but unable to get it. That denies him of a considerable amount of gold, 140 gold essentially denied there from that initial break. So good play to Ayu and Jojo, able to defend their turret. And now back onto the rest of the map, Miryu is going to come up into the top side to defend the dregs of this top lane turret, try and prevent the first break. But this could be a tough situation because now they're in this long lane and Tuts has the ghost up.
Yeah, we hadn't seen any more kind of action out this top side, Bren, but in the interim, Gigo managed to strip that top lane almost down to its bare bones. No plates left on it. And just kind of using the 3 grubs that Fury had picked up, I guess, purely through lane trades and backtimers, I suppose, was able to get a solid gold advantage for himself. 800 gold advantage while not actually getting the kill earlier on in that lane. So, well played to Gigo for managing out that lane matchup, quietly accruing a lead and opening up some avenues for pressure for Furia at the end of this laning phase, as they are 3 grubs up, 2 dragons, 2.5k gold up with 1 quest left to complete. It's been going swimmingly for Furia, and this is the kind of when Furia comes into an early game with a good plan, when their plans succeed in the first couple of minutes, as we said, they are very, very hard to knock off that pedestal. And VKS, we're still waiting to see any kind of success. Any of the fights they've chosen in the bot river around the mid side, they've not been well judged, and they've been kind of quickly pushed back off them.
Yeah, and you can see they're just kind of in the hands trade in the bottom lane. Wiser not wanting to get too aggressive, and so Gigo is able to just continuously shove the wave, shove the wave, shove the wave. I'm going to cut myself off here. We have a fight here.
Goes for the stun. Out comes the Crescent Guard, and the Ash Hour connects onto Kaiwing. Miryu's on the flank, slowing them down with the Glacial Storm. Flashes away from Desamus, but Tatu follows it up. Ayu with the slows, getting that damage down onto Kaiwing and Seo as Miryu escapes back to the turret. And VKS, once again, they lose their jungler. Furia had the pieces in place, and they just walk up for the fight.
Yep, they have the pieces they want. They hit a big encore over the top, hits multiple members. They hit 2 members there and just lock them in place, follow up the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Not really a lot you can do there as VKS. They just are on the back foot. They try to make something happen because they know eventually they need to make something happen. We'll get the first tower here in the top side. But, man, Furia is just... clinical's the right word. They kind of have a stranglehold. They're just slowly choking the life out of VKS. We're going to get a replay of how this all breaks down. And it's Desamus getting locked down by the double beat drop. And then you're going to see here, the Encore goes into 2. Sia is able to barely dodge out, then followed up by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. So Kaiwing effectively nullified during that entire fight. And they're just not able to find anything off the back of it. Not only are they being CC'd to all hell, but they don't have any damage once they aren't CC'd.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the VKS comp, right, it's all kite back, right? There's no playmaking on this composition, right? It's, you know, maybe an Anivia stun, perhaps, or a Wiser flank ultimate or something, but they really don't have any way to start a fight. They do have ways to slow down and to kite back a fight, and they're relying, I think, on Furia to try and make plays with Ashe ult, with Pantheon ult, Seraphine ult, which they are doing, but you have to be able to survive it, right? You have to be able to take the engage and then survive, reposition, play out the fight. But they're taking the engage and dying. And so it just doesn't work, you know? And now when we're falling further and further behind, we're now 4,000 gold behind at 17 minutes. Can we actually land the engage? That is kind of the key proposition of this draft.
Yeah, they're struggling to find kind of any way forward through it, and so like you're hoping that someone on the team is got like a plan, but it just kind of feels like a little disconnected. There doesn't feel like anyone is going to be the guy to step forward and make something happen. And that's kind of what VKS needs right now. They need a hero, but I'm not sure they're going to find it.
Lovely ult from Gigo once again into the beat drop, and Desamus is just surgically removed from the front line of VKS. We now have the rotations coming in. Jojo is going to go down. First kill on the board for VKS as Tatu was waiting behind the walls for a potential opportunity. Didn't have the flash though, and chose not to go for a full engagement. They didn't have Tuts after all, so Furia are going to step onto this Drake. It's going to be the Chemtech, third Drake for them, put them on soul point, as Gigo and Ayu are holding down this mid lane turret, and now in comes the rotation. Rise and Pantheon flying into the mid lane. VKS flash into safety, but in they come. Lovely double stun from Miryu, slows down the engage. It'll get VKS out of dodge, but Wiser left on his own in mid lane, being shredded, and there's the armor penetration coming through for you, Bren. Pantheon doing a lot of work with Ayu in the back pocket, and Furia once again play out the fight well, and they can go back to the objective.
Yeah, it was a good, they found it there for VKS. They found a kill. They got at least some even trade for it. Tatu kind of just got caught looking, just sitting in the Raptor pit, like they're going to come to this wall eventually, and then I'm going to W them, and it's going to be awesome. All right, anytime now, guys, and doesn't find it. And so they get that kill. But then they try to go forward, take some plates off the mid lane, and Furia say, hold on, we have like some range on these ultimates. We're not committed to taking this dragon. We can come and scrap with you if you'd like. And most of VKS does the thing where we're just going to kite backwards. We've got the comp for it. We have lots of stuns, lots of slows, but the one person left out of that equation is Wiser, who is going to fall. That means, like you said, another good play for Furia. Now up 5,000 to their name, 3 dragons, another tower soon to be in their hands. It feels like they can put no foot wrong.
Yeah, very clutch by Miryu to get the stun onto Tuts and Gigo, trying to force that play to continue. So we did see, as you'd said, right, some of the kite back is on display, and that's kind of how it's supposed to work. But ultimately, they're so far behind, they can't control everything. They can't save everybody. It's still enough for Furia to win the fight, They get mid lane turret, they get the third Drake, 4 minutes now until they can play for a Chemtech Soul. It's not the most exciting Chemtech Soul, right? I don't think anyone on Furia really cares about it that much. Tuts, though, wants the Super Blast going in, gets into range of Kaiwing, and he's been picked apart before the fight can even kick off, but it is kicking off in earnest now. Tatu on the front line finds another stun. Samus trying to escape, flashes himself to safety. Gigo's TP'd in, and Furia looking to get the hands on another. Public execution lands onto Miryu, pushes him into the Anivia passive, and Furia will swarm around the egg, killing spree for Tuts.
Gigo is just kind of that guy. He had a few kind of maybe unadvised public executions in lane, some ones that missed or just didn't ultimately do anything to Weiser, but those were just practice, making sure he had the lineups all correct. Because now here that we're in these team fights, his public executions have been catch after catch after catch, doing so well, and good damage from the Ezreal, it must be said, but ultimately for nothing. They are gonna get this Baron pretty much right after it spawns. Only a minute after it spawns is the Baron immediately taken down, and not for nothing, Weiser is across the map finding some split push value, getting something on the board, but it is just looking kind of hopeless for VKS at this stage. We're gonna get a replay of what happened here to Kaiwing.
Yeah, and it's just the super the most exciting thing that I think that Chemtech brings for them on this in this map is the Super Blast cones, right? Because it lets Furia again play even more aggressively for picks. They can dive super deep into the jungle, and you can see that if they're sticking together, when they have Ashe and Seraphine backing up that engaging front line, the gold diff is already wide enough that it feels almost impossible for VKS to play. We have just hit the Muramana spike, the 2-item spike for Seo. This is like Ezreal's strongest point in the game, but he's not ahead in gold. Ayu has already been accelerated past 2 items, and we've already got Diadem Echoes combo on Jojo, so the point where VKS should be at their strongest is just gonna sort of drift past unnoticed, because Furia already has the Baron. They don't even have to force fights for another couple minutes, Bren. They can just push the waves.
Yeah, they're just gonna sit here and kind of make you respond, and even if you do, you're probably still gonna lose your towers. Those Baroned up cannons doing so much damage to your tower. Weiser still trying to scrap with Gigo, finding a little bit of damage there, but just getting it immediately traded back. And I feel like Furia just have the map state they want. They can continue to just siege and shove in these waves if they wish. They can back out, reset, get their items at any time. There's really not much they can do in terms of like game losing mistakes. I'm not even gonna comment on it. Doesn't matter. He was under tower and then they killed him anyways. So
there's no need to play by play this, you know. It's just he's dead again. You know, he's been dived. He's got no passive. There it is. And we now have 3 wave Baron push coming in from Furia. As here comes an ultimate committed onto Weiser. Now he is managing to chunk through him, shredding him with the help of that Black Cleaver Eclipse combination plus the passive armor penetration. Is it enough to actually get the kill? No, not quite, but it will shove Weiser back to the fountain.
Does shove Weiser all the way back, and so I mean, it's again just another example of Furia just doing what they do. They have this massive advantage. They, even if they aren't getting a kill, they're taking the space. They're taking multiple towers here. I wonder if they're going to be able to get the inhibitors. It doesn't look quite like it. Weiser's on the flank.
Flashes onto Ayu and gets the all out. There we go. That's the one way they have to make a play. Right? Super Blast going into the backline, all out back to your team. Fair play to Weiser.
And, you know, Cassante has been a fairly, popular champ this split, kind of internationally. And not super high prio, but it's just slipping through bans. It has about 20 picks, I think, so far in this young split. That now they've got... This is a kind of a dangerous position. I wonder if they... I'm going to cut myself off talking about Cassante in a second. Oh, he's about to die.
He doesn't have the ultimate. He is holding the line, but isn't going to survive. The public execution doesn't connect, but Seo's on the front line. How's that happened? Tatu takes him down. No questions asked. Samus next on the chopping block. And need I remind you, everybody, this is a 4v5. And it does not look like it. The Ashe Arrow sailed past. Tatu's ulted to get into a flight position. It's going to cancel the base on Kaiwing. And just to add insult to injury, VKS get aced 4 versus 5 at the Drake, and it's Chemtech Soul for Furia.
It was 4 versus 5, and VKS just didn't want to give over souls, so they fought with 4 people, right? That's what happened? It was VKS had 4 people?
I guess. I suppose.
My goodness, Furia in such a strong position. I mean, the wallet diff it speaks for itself at this stage. But
yeah, this one's been done for a while.
My goodness. I was like, hey, Casante's got some play to him. He can maybe do something. No, he's just dead on the front line. There's no hope for anything in here, Trajan. It's so over. It's never been more over.
Okay, we're committing 1v3 onto Gigo. Ayu stepping in to help him, and the one guy who actually really does quite like a Chemtech Soul is Ambessa for Furia. As now Tut steps forward, the Anivia ult goes down, but the damage just isn't there. Furia hounding VKS back onto their fountain. They'll turn their attention back to the Nexus turrets. And everybody, we are going to game 2 very, very shortly. Furia going to lock up the fastest win of the day, just shy of 26 minutes. And VKS, they didn't even get a toehold into this game, Bren. We didn't really even see a play. We didn't see a fight. We saw one successful pick by Weiser a couple minutes ago when the game was already basically done, and it did not change the outcome. You can see Furia, we're not shouting, we're not screaming and jumping around. It's all business. That was all business, and they did not waste a second in that one.
Yeah, that was easy as you like for Furia. Just for VKS fans, the day that Furia destroyed their new roster was the worst day of their life. But for Furia, it was Tuesday, man. Like, they just came out and just did not care. That's what we expect out of Furia. They had their weird Gnar throw. That I'm gonna bring this up. It's gonna be finals next split, and I'm bringing up the Gnar from this one. But they had the stomp game in game 2, like you said, and then they got outplayed in that game 3. But this is like the approach that we expect from Furia. So I'm hoping to see that, like, if this is the Furia we're getting, if we're gonna have a stomp today, at least we'll get a Furia that's on form. I would like to see Furia at their best. I think Furia at their absolute peak are probably the best team in the league, bar none. But they're not able to maintain that peak super consistently. So I want to see them get there.
Yeah, for sure, right? It's these games, these wins that we've seen from this iteration of Furia roster all the way back since its inception, right? Since the start of 2025, they're able to put up dubs like this just frequently enough that you think, this team is surely the best. Like, surely they're the greatest. And they've had their ups and their downs in between that time, their inconsistencies, their problems, but always they're able to just slot in games like this every now and again that make you go, damn, these guys are sick. These guys
are nasty with it.
These guys are nasty with it. So with that, we're going to go to a quick break. He'll be back in just a few minutes with the second game. Let's see if this new and improved VKS can show us a little bit more, or if Furia can actually string 2 of those wins together for the first time in this split. We'll see you back here. Welcome back, everybody, to CBLOL English. Furia versus Vivo Cade Stars continues now. First win, a classic Furia stomp, if I do say so myself, and VKS did not really have much of an inning of any kind. Now, I imagine they would like to show us a bit more action in this game, perhaps even some engaged choices, some champions that can make plays. Who knows what we'll see from VKS, but I hope it's a little more. That's all I want.
Yeah, and they had like some very solid foundational picks. They had the Karma, which we've seen is disgustingly broken despite the nerfs. I mean, the nerfs are more to her late game shielding potential, so she's still very strong in the early game. You had the Xin Zhao that makes things happen, but like you said, overall they just didn't have a way to like coordinate and go forward. Whereas Furia very much felt like we find a guy. We press our buttons on that guy, they probably die. We go to the next guy and we press more buttons on him, and that's kind of that.
Yeah.
So, we would like to see something from VKS that gives them options on how they want to play the game, other than to hoping that like they're able to kite out of some opponents engaged, giving them a way to engage for themselves would be kind of useful.
Because we saw very good map control and macro play from them against Pain. Now, they didn't really have a strong opponent that was going to challenge them on anything, but we didn't really see anything of that from them in this game. Furia was allowed to dictate the pace at every step of the way. So we know VKS has a lot of strong hands and strong minds of the game in the CBLOL. Desamis in jungle. We now have Weiser back in topside. We've got Kaiwing, a world's top 8ing support from the CFO days, right? Seo is one of the most experienced veteran AD carries in the region and is playing close to his peak. We know they've got what it takes. We just need to see them actually demonstrate it on the Rift. As we're on to the pick and ban for the second game once again. Bans coming through fairly standard right now. We see very heavy jungler focus from Furia, it must be said. Kiana, Nocturne, and Vi all removed, plus Jarvan taken away by the VKS lot, and their first pick is Lulu. Now, normally we'd see this paired with things like Aphelios, Jinx, or Yunara, all of which are still available, and we'll see what the answer from Furia is going to be.
So good, solid engage options coming through from VKS. They can flash forward and wild growth.
Look, right, I've seen an Akali ult into Lulu ult combination engage that blew my mind. There's things you can do with the Lulu ult.
There's things we can do, but in exchange, we're immediately slamming our bot lane. Furia says, we know how we're gonna deal with Lulu.
Which can shoot
You
her.
can shield. You can play your fancy little. You're gonna keep your AD carry safe. That's fine. Keep your AD carry safe from this. Then blow his head smooth off with Caitlyn R.
Yeah, pretty much. And the Nico as well. The burst CC chain combination there is very, very strong. And we loved IU's Caitlyn paired up with Emilio in their Lost series last week. He was frontline Caitlyn-ing to a degree I have rarely seen. He was playing very, very aggressive classic IU stuff, and it was very, very good. Now, paired into the Varus, in fact, with the Lulu. So we are, expecting to still see the on-hit Varus, which has really taken precedent since the nerfs to lethality came through, I think, a patch ago. And this is going to give them a decent ability to stand in 2v2, right? It gives them great DPS. They've got good catch with the Varus ultimate. That gives them a bit of setup. So Seo and Kaiwing will certainly be able to do something into this bot lane, I imagine. And here comes the Rumble. We haven't seen that for a little bit, but it has still been kind of left through the bans. Kasante is already taken away, so the classic answer's removed,
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit in the interstitial between a few of the games earlier. Rumble is just like Mr. Blind pick. Like that guy gets picked blind like 100% of games, which is insane just how strong he is. Ornn did receive some very slight nerfs to his damage, but still in terms of the tankiness is unchanged, and so will be a pretty dang good pick to sit there and just kind of eat the punishment from the Rumble.
Yeah, so we know that Gigo has had a norm for a long time. He is very good at soaking up tough lanes on things like Sion, Ornn, and Kasante, so I don't think we have any worries for him necessarily. Weiser obviously is a very strong Rumble player from back in the day. Second round of bans comes through. Mundo, the first taken away by Furia. Of course, we are still looking for some sort of front line to be set up. Now, there's no Vi to pair with the Rumble. There's no Nocturne. So I'm wondering what the choice for Desamis is going to be, especially with no J4, no Pantheon, no Xin. We have really thinned out this jungle pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if Furia just drop a 5th jungle ban, just to round it out. Why not? Make Desamis' life as hard as possible.
Yeah, and we had threatened the Orianna, and we have instead opted to ban it. So still no Orianna in the CBLOL through the the
No.
split
No.
so far. I think that's 17 consecutive bans for Orianna.
Oh boy. One day we'll get her.
One day we may see it again. But speaking of that mid lane pick, I would actually like to see them put Mirio on something that has like that level of playmaking ability. Obviously, the Orianna itself is gone, but I feel like we put Mirio on that Anivia as like a rise answer, but that's just not what Mirio does, right? I want to see him something where he's just going to hands check the rest of Furia and say like, hey, are you guys as good as I am? And
Yeah.
I don't think you can really, like you said, not a lot of technical execution to be done with the Anivia. We didn't get to see that last game.
No, I'm kind of expecting a Sejuani game from Tatu. That's what I'm feeling. Because we've had 5 jungle bans, including the Skarner, which is a Tatu special. The Malphite even taken away by VKS. Another jungle ban, right? And as much as I said that they were making Desamus' life hard, Tatu also hasn't picked his jungle yet. I think Sejuani might be kind of the last normal pick left. I guess maybe it's Aatrox. I guess I forgot Aatrox, everybody. That's my bad.
Aatrox, a jungle. We've seen it to pretty good effect with Drake Hero in the previous series.
Yeah.
Has quite the ability to sit there and fight out. Now, very interesting to see what Desamus can possibly offer at kind of this stage of the draft. What are we going to be going for?
You can see how thin the pool is at this point with the champions being offered. Like, we have really targeted it, and Zehen comes out. So again, they have managed to find a normal champion right at the bottom of the barrel. It is 2-0, and we have seen this, be pulled into the jungle a couple times. It's 2-0 right now. I think people generally feel better about it in jungle than in top lane even. So I think Desamus has managed to get something solid on the board right there, and now we see what the choice of Mirio is going to be. As you said, Bren, maybe something with a bit more mechanical expression, bit more of a skill ceiling to play with, so we can see what Mirio can do. But it looks like we might be going for the Aurora instead. So not necessarily heavy on the mechanics, but certainly can be hugely impactful through picking your right moment in the team fight.
Yeah, at least gives us the skill expression in the sense that this character feels like it has a lot more agency than the Anivia does, right? Has that playmaking potential, which is what we are looking for.
It's still pretty low for DPS, right? Like, Parasol, Rumble Ult maybe? And yeah, the flanking Aurora to kind of freak him out. But like
just crazy flash dash in Zahen into wild growth into you can't kill this guy, I guess.
And then the other side has TF, Ornult, and Nico ult once again to play. Furia is an abundance of playmaking options have been drafted by Furia once again, and it seems like VKS are once again just kind of be sitting and waiting for something to happen to them,
Which didn't work out particularly well.
I don't love that.
Game, and
it's not what I
am a big fan of drafting agency. That's why, in my own personal games, even I think supports are great. Like enchanters, they can do so much for your team. They are super powerful. But like, slap me a Nautilus down there, give me a Leona, because they can make something happen. If you're in a bad position and you're just a good enough engager and you find the right engage, you can win your team the fight. Whereas if you are kind of just sat here waiting for the other team to engage into you, you give them a lot of, agency into how the game is played. They get to dictate if they want to fight or not, because how are you going to engage? They have some pick tools, it must be said, like you mentioned. They have, the Equalizer can find some value here, or perhaps the Varus, arrows can get something done. The ulti can lock some people up. But they're going to have to be very, very particular in how they play this game out.
Yeah, they really are. And I think for Furia, it feels like they've not even sacrificed lane power for playmaking and team fighting, right? They've got Caitlyn Nico in the bot side, so double range, really strong bot side. I don't think they're going to be losing into VKS in the matchup-wise. Tuts has gone into the TF. Now, he can't match the damage of Aurora, but he can outrange her, right? And like he can farm safely from range, and he has a natural gold income. That means even if he goes down a few CS to not get poked, he still ends up with more gold anyway, because that's how the champion works. So I feel like Furia have come away once again extremely happy with this draft. Like, I think they've got resilient lanes, they've got great playmaking, they've got great scaling because of the Ornn topping up as well, the getting the Caitlyn through the potential damage troughs, and Aatrox jungle that can fill out carry potential from the jungle. It seems like Furia's drafts today have just been really, really solid.
Yeah, and I think today's drafts, like going into them, there's been a couple where we're like, oh, they feel pretty even. But then when you can see the games be played out, you can see where those differences in the draft start to really become very apparent. I think there's been a lot of impetus on the draft today. I feel like the teams that have, figured out the draft that suits their game, that suits, what they want to do moving forward and how the current meta is being played, have been the teams that have found success. Los Grandes, I think, drafted very well in their series. And obviously, in retrospect, VKS had some interesting, combination tools, but didn't have any way to bring those to fruition last game. And as such, Furia's drafts just seemed to, be the ones in the pilot seat. So
yeah,
now if this draft kind of holds true, we're looking to see once again, the onus is on VKS to prove us wrong, to make something happen on their own, because we know how strong Furia is in the early game. We know what they'll do if they get that lead.
Yeah, they certainly are. They certainly seem to be playing warmed up today, as we see Ayu and Jojo trying to pressure in bot side, trying to maybe get a crash in right now. Both the junglers playing top to bottom, so they're going to be rotating down. Neither of them with the strongest gank, that must be said. Pre-6 especially, without an ultimate for Zahen to dive into the backline, or without the World Ender for Tatu to give himself the speed and the ability to hold down a front line. It's we're not expecting too much, I think, out of the junglers, though we did see a pretty spicy Aatrox gank from Drake Hero in the first series of the day, so certainly not impossible. But I imagine it will most likely be the lanes kind of matching up against each other until the ultimates are online.
Yeah. Now we're going to see kind of... the lanes are going to be matched up, but I'm looking for these small advantages, because I don't think there's that much more to find, and I'm really looking to see something out of either the bot lane or the mid lane that makes me say, okay, VKS has like a game plan. They've got something that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And until I see it, I'm not sure I'm ready to believe yet.
Oh, Tatu, he's managed to find a gank onto Miri. They're looking for the gold card. They won't find it. Miri manages to jump out of range. Desamus is ready and waiting, just in case he's needed, but Furia not going to overcommit. So, an early gank attempted, but nothing really secured, as Gigo, getting roasted a little bit by Weiser, gets behind him with the overheated Flame Spitter to get that good damage down. So yeah, we need to see VKS, I think, find strong success in the lanes. We know they have good laners, but so do Furia, right? They absolutely have strong lanes as well. So this is going to be potentially make or break for VKS. And yeah, as you say, we need to see what the plan is. Where are they planning to invest their resources? Are they trying to cover bot lane? Are they trying to get dives done in mid lane to push Tuts behind? Or what is the plan here for VKS? Because we didn't really see one in game one.
No, we didn't see one, and if there was one, it just never got a chance to do much of anything. I think Weiser are going to be pretty happy with his kind of status in the top lane here. Or, like I said, can survive, but has to give a lot of respect to that Rumble is backing already. I imagine it's going to burn that TP right back up into the top lane so as to not, lose too much tempo. So the top lane kind of taking care of itself right now. And no longer is there an Ambessa that's just going to run over the lane if left unchecked.
Yeah.
So they've got that going for them. We can turn Desamus a little loose onto the other lanes. See what he can do with it.
Yeah. Hopefully at some point. We've got level 5 on the board for Tatu. Desamus not going to be too far behind. And once we look for those ults potentially connecting in mid lane as well, Miryu will have that burst to offer and threaten into a kind of jungle. Mid can link up for kill combos, or Tuts can then use the ultimate to rotate to side lanes. That's going to have to be a threat that VKS need to be very aware of, right? If they're trying to get any pressure in the lanes, if they're trying to build their own leads and take up an aggressive position, they now have to be aware of a TF ultimate coming down over the top of them very soon.
The global pressure, similar to what we saw with the Rise being able to rotate into position, caused one of those bottom lane fights to go much more the direction of Furia than it would have otherwise gone. Tuts now, like you said, has the level 6. Going to be a significant, option for them looking into these side lanes for a potential gank. The dragon is up. It's something to play for. Who's going to make this first move? Furia has the push here in the bot lane, has the threat, but in the mid lane, it is Miryu. It seems to be kind of, like I said, forcing Tuts back. Not that he'll care too much. The passive gold generation doing a lot to help him in that regard.
Yeah, we can see Seo is positioning very, very well in these lane trades. He's dodging out the 90 caliber net and the Peacekeeper for IU very, very consistently, so he's avoiding a huge amount of the Caitlyn poke, right? He has managed to... They're still suffering a little bit because the Nico has a lot more damage to offer than the Lulu does, but he's doing well. I think Seo and Kyron would be absolutely in the bin if he was not dodging these skill shots so well, so props to the VKS AD carry for using his mechanics to stay afloat right now, but ultimately Furia, they do still have control of the map at this point. They are going to walk over and pick up that first Chemtech Drake without a contest. The Salmus on Zahen heading up to the top side, going to pick up that top scuttle, but there's no grubs for him to grab right now.
The big...
This Tut's trading heavily in the mid lane right now. Miryu threatening as well with his own damage, but yeah, Tuts can happily go down a few CS as we mentioned. The TF passive keeps him easily comfortable enough. Catalyst and Null Magic, he's even building, you know, he's building slow defensive items, right? He's not necessarily trying to out-trade him in any way, and he's going to be comfortable enough, I think, to move forward.
Okay, I am back. I may or may not have knocked the Ethernet cable out of my laptop.
No. Whoops. Happens.
But we're good. What I was saying is Tatu, the big beneficiary of that dragon, quite a lot of heal and shield power, plus tenacity, which does a lot of good for you when your name is Aatrox, and you just kind of did a lot of healing.
Yeah, he's not going to be sniffing at that at all. Going to be very comfortable picking that one up. It was a very strong dragon control for Furia in the last game as well. Now the grub's coming up in 25 seconds. We've got backs being called by the Aatrox. Zahen still working on that bot side clear as Aatrox heads out to his own bot side. So I'm wondering if we're going to see any early movements towards that grub camp if Furia wants to potentially pick a fight over it. Furia do normally like to just rotate members to a play, kind of dare the enemy to come and contest them, and then scrap it out as they are so successful in that field. It worked for them great last game. They don't have as strong, jungle playmaking as Tatu had in that last one. He does not have the Pantheon ult and stun, but they do have Tut's ultimates and gold card to follow with him if they call the play early.
Yeah, now they're getting another kind of just push into that bot lane. They kind of have the perma bot lane prio. Wouldn't be surprised if at any point we see that Nico try to sneak out of this lane, roam up towards the top side of the map to secure these grubs as well, and see Furia start the same thing that gave them such a huge advantage in the early game in the previous matchup, where they just took all of these early neutral objectives kind of unassailed by VKS. VKS not able to find any purchase. Like you said, couldn't even find a toehold last game with which to play. But it is, however, the Zahen moving up towards these grubs. Miryu there as well. Weiser there as well. And so they are going to very quickly cut through these early grubs. And so, unlike the last game, they are at least finding something to do here in the early game.
Yeah, they've had no issue with that at all. Gonna pick that, pick two grabs up for Zahen. Looks like gonna back away just for the time being. Gold, even at this point still, as the Scuttler picked up for VKS as well. So we've not seen Furia manage to find an angle with this the Destiny gold card combination from Tuts. Now we have Jojo, who has Nico'd into the mid lane just to see if Miryu was paying attention. Looks like he was, and they will simply shake hands and step away. Doesn't quite catch him with a route through the wave as well, but they will now step back to the bases. So again, it's a bit of a slower pace from Furia. They've not had the acceleration they've had from last game. However, with a Caitlyn, with an Ornn kind of scaling up, there isn't, I think, necessarily that much pressure for them to do so, and they don't have as good tools for it in the early game. But VKS, I'm sure, is going to be happy to just have a more even start to this one.
Yeah, and I think VKS has lots of good tools for fighting in the mid game, honestly. Because I feel like when you look at Caitlyn, she's such a lane bully with all that extra range. But people forget she actually scales incredibly well, and I think that makes her weakest in the mid game, when she only has like an item or two. But the ultimate's coming out for Weiser.
Here we go. Out comes the play. There's the knock-up chains coming through. First blood for Tuts. There's that Destiny that we've been looking for. VKS Miryu, he TP'd up, but he was too late to change the course of that one.
Yeah, like you said, it's destiny for Weiser to fall to the ultimates there. One used to get across the map, one used for the engage. first kill of the game. But here in the bot side, we're seeing a huge trade. Jojo forced to flash away. So VKS at least not lying down to die, looking for fights and coming out the better of the match.
Yeah, the VKS, the ultimate coming out of Varus, so the Chains of Corruption, threatening Jojo enough to force him to flash out. Still holding on to his own Pot Blossom as well as the Nico, so that threat's going to be there once he gets back into the lane. Tut's going to step back and pick up some plates in mid lane. And Furia managing to open up the first gold lead, really, of the game. They were about a K, now down to 700. Still with the Dragon lead, though. The second Drake and Ocean is going to spawn just now. So, we do have a chance for Furia to move up to 2. Looks like both Nico and Aatrox rotating down to the area quick smart. Tuts, though, threatened by the Equalizer. Out comes Miri with the ultimate as well, pushing him very low. He doesn't have... Well, he does have the flash. He just didn't want to press it, I guess.
Opted not to burn it, I suppose. Figured maybe he was already dead, but only the Faded Ashes burn, if he had flashed at the right time, could have gotten out. The moot point now is he's dead for another 20 seconds. This will give VKS the first look at least the Scuttle Crab in the river, not willing to start up the Dragon off of the small advantage. But now that ties up the kill score, they are going to start up this Dragon, and Furia says, not worth contesting, we're going to reset.
Yeah, not interested in that. Don't want it. VKS are going to even up the Drake score. So, finally, a play from VKS, Bren. An honest-to-goodness play that just works and they get a thing off it. That's what we need.
Let's go, VKS. They finally just did a thing. And the Equalizer was the play of good, though kind of answer Tatsu just invading and getting some value off of his opponent's jungle. Knows that he's tied up at the Dragon, so at least getting something to do. Oh, and the Chains of Corruption gonna miss there. They're looking for another play in the bot lane, but that ultimate cooldown isn't particularly long. At this stage, my apologies. At this stage of the game, Sayo is not going to be too flustered by missing it.
No, he's not too upset about that at all. He's gonna simply head back and get on with it right now. So we have still the gold lead for Furia. Top side is still stable though. Weiser has got the Liandry's completed. He's almost level 11 too. So Rumble's heading into his strong mid-game power spike, and we see the Equalizer can do a lot of work right there. The Samus has got his item completed. He's going to be able to hold down and do a bit of drain tanking off the Sundered Sky if he can get his passive procced as well. So VKS with a bit of a platform to build some sort of a mid-game out of here. As for Furia, again, the pace continues to be much slower than last game. And I wonder if they're going to feel any pressure to step up and try to start making things happen. They didn't really have a choice last time. You know, their mid laner was the one getting jumped on and kind of preempted their opportunity there. So I guess they're just going to wait and we'll see what they can put together.
Yeah, we do have the Rift Herald coming up eventually in about a minute, at 15 minutes. And we'll get that Rift Herald in. The one grub is just kind of sitting there being like, you want the Rift Herald timer? Too bad.
Yeah,
but we know when Shelly is on her way. It should be soon. I imagine that's where we're gonna get these rotates for. You can see Kaiwing already up at the top side of this map, kind of preempting that play with his ADC getting into the mid lane. Miryu now trading against Gigo in the bot lane. Elena Simus getting a little bit tossed up. Samus in the river. You see a lot of pings coming out here. Everybody has some vision, and you might see a skirmish coming out because there's the ultimate.
Well, it's committed onto Miryu, who has been aggressed on by Tuts as well. Oh, the CC chain is brutal, Bren. As soon as they get one finger on you, there is no way you're getting out.
Yeah, that's the play-making potential. We talked about what that Ornhorn provides, the Call of the Forge God. Very similar to what we talked about when it comes to the value of the Leona or the Nautilus, being able to kind of just ultimate from a distance and have this non-committal hard CC engage. Ornn provides much that same value, gets the knock up, and immediately everyone just dog piles onto Miryu. That's a really good play. They're not going to be able to find any direct objectives off of it, but getting a lot of gold and map positioning, getting some plates in the bot lane. But Weiser using the speed off the TP. He's just going to go for this guy.
He is going hell for leather down for Tots right now. The gold comes out, a heal as well off the swapped summoner from the Unleashed Spellbook, and a flash will get Tuts to safety. So Weiser punching onto Tuts, get of that engaged threat away. The flash gold card now not an option, and VKS taking the chance to head onto the Herald. Not going to be contested by Furia. They are instead going for the mid lane push. But VKS starting to mount some sort of presence on the map right now. Still down in gold. 2,000 now the lead for Furia. But VKS have a Herald to open up a lane later on the map.
Yeah, VKS have something to do with it. They lost their mid laner, but luckily did not lose the opportunity to get that objective. They've got a tower that it will very easily fall to a well-placed Rift Herald when the time comes. See, it's in the pocket of Dasamus' Zahen right now. He's passing through his bottom side of the map. They have some vision on Tatu. You can see the pings coming out. I might see a skirmish down there because Tatu doesn't really care that they see the Aatrox and is still trying to be very, very mean to poor Tuts.
No, he is not particularly interested. Does not matter at all to them. As Furia taking up some positions in the bot side river. Rotating Ayu up to this mid lane as well, who has got the Hex Optic and a BF Sword completed. We're waiting for that Infinity Edge to come through before the Caitlyn can really be considered to be activated kind of fully, as much for Seo, who wants to get that Gwynsu's Rage Blade completed. Herald comes down into mid lane. It's going to crack the first turret. Mid lane turret destroyed. TP into the back. Tuts has gone for the Messiah play, but he doesn't have a Zhonya's. But Jojo and Gigo, they've got the follow-up that they needed. Seo has already been ulted by Lulu, standing and firing out those arrows. Ayu dropping very, very low. 1 for 1 so far. Mid lane for top laner, but VKS, they crack mid as well.
And all things considered, that play went a lot better for VKS than it could have. It was a very strong position for Gigo to teleport behind. And Miryu getting aggressive, looking for something to happen, but can't make it so. But yeah, VKS able to survive that engage, trade 1 for 1. Great damage coming out from that very aggressive play from Wiser. You can see once they get stuck in, they're willing to just kind of commit to it. A huge 3-man knockup by the Nico, but unfortunately does not prevent the wild growth getting, onto Seo, who is able to survive. Kaiwing does not take all that much damage. Not enough follow-up from the knockup, and that means VKS go and pick up a second dragon, and now it's going to be a Hextech Soul that is on the Rift this map. Those Hextech gates going to be allowing people to move out around the map much, much faster, getting all that extra cooldowns and attack speed going to be a big benefit for both teams. So this dragon going to be a very heavily contested objective.
Yeah, they're going to be happy enough with that one. VKS with a much more comfortable position in this second game. A best of 3. Have a chance to push us to a further game. Furia would love to sweep this one aside after the disappointment against Los in week 1. We've seen what Los did to Leviton earlier on today. A real contender rejoining the top half of the table, as VKS would love to be as well after the collapse we saw from them in the CBLOL Cup. No one expected our defending champions to fall apart at the seams quite like they did. Furia, despite the fact that they couldn't capitalize, they were knocked out themselves by Red Canids in the lower bracket. They kind of regained the honor of the region in the America's Cup, sweeping all their opponents aside, coming back into Split 1. And I'm sure they'd love to return to MSI. We saw them there last year. They were very close to making a very significant impact at that event. And this Furia roster, I think, still has more to give.
Yeah, they were, essentially half a game back of both the LCP representative and G2, the LEC representative. So,
yeah,
they could have done it, just couldn't make it so. And so they're very eager to get some redemption for that. And like we said, Furia at their best, with more experience at that level, could certainly be a threat to these international teams. We saw it well enough in the America's Cup that the second and third seed from the LCS were not but flies to Furia, who swatted them aside. But now, swatting aside is what they're doing to the opposing mid lane. The Varus falls.
Oh my word, they are forcing the issue right there. They got the turret. Ayu's trying to flash away though. They see the flank coming out from Miryu. Ornn can't find the knockup, unfortunately. Pulled back by Dasamus, I believe. As Miryu is been ulted by the Caitlyn. Tatu trying to follow it up. Drags him back in with the Infernal Chains. And Aatrox brings down the Darkened Blade to pick up another kill. Furia forcing the issue. Bored of all this slow play for the first 20 minutes. Just call a play in mid.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this for the two comps, right? What does VKS have in terms of playmaking? They need CEO to go forward and fire some chains of corruption when they need a flank from Mirio. That puts their two big damage carries into fairly weak positions, kind of vulnerable positions. Whereas Furia just has buttons. They can just ult you with their Ornn, they can ult you with their Nico, and then they're more than happy to clean up the kills on the back end of that. That is effectively exactly what happened there in the mid lane. They get a tower. They're going to take some gold to boot. And then not much more to find. They back out. They are able to get Mirio on the back end of that play. It's looking very good for Furia. Looks like they're going to pick up a tower in the top lane, a tower in the bot lane. The map is very open for the Furries going forward. And this is going to be tough for VKS.
It is, right? And now again, we're back in a position where we don't have gold and we don't have ability to do anything. We don't have a tool to make a pick. We don't have a way to force the issue to catch an overextending Furia. We have to sit back and wait for Furia to decide what they're going to do, walk up to them and hope they make a mistake or try and bait them into making a mistake. And Furia are just, they don't tend to make errors like that when they're in a leading position. They know how to play from a strong position so well. We so rarely see them make these errors. They play with confidence, yes. They play with kind of, some would call it looks like they're playing recklessly at some times, but when they have a lead, they simply know the limits that they can play to is almost always the actual answer there. And it's just not a good idea to walk yourself into that spot against them because they're so consistent.
Speaking of walking yourself into that spot, we've got another engage here from the Ornn.
Tuts is deep on the flank right now. Kaiwing's been caught out, and Tuts is just going to have to walk through that rumble. Gets back to the team, flashes past the Grim Deliverance, as now Dasama's seeing what he can do. Tattoo dropping a little bit low. Seo still full HP, and is now stacked up on the Varus. He's got some DPS to offer. Out comes the passive there, but the catch-up, the follow-up Pot Blossom. Jojo holding it, the patience on the Nico for the re-engage off the ultimate, and now Tuts can step up with a gold card on Miryu. The ace in the hole for Seo forces him back into his jungle. And Furia, with an engage, a back away, and a re-engage, all succeeding, now leaving the Baron open.
Yeah, really good play from Jojo. This guy's positioning is always so good, and his timing was immaculate there. Found the exact right window to re-engage with the Nico, and that's going to set his team up for a very easy Baron. The map state, incredibly Furia favored, is not only have they opened up these three lanes, they have the outer turrets, so they have no struggle rotating around for these objectives, more space in which to fight. But now they're going to have these lanes pushed up, and we're going to get a replay of exactly how this started. VKS just don't have the vision here and are a little too far forward, and that means at least someone's getting caught by the Call of the Forge God. It is Kaiwing that takes that dishonor. The Grim Deliverance comes out as multiple ults pop, but everyone just immediately backs away, lets that damage fall, and then a perfectly timed re-engage finds 3. CO is full health here. Like, he could be free firing, but just doesn't quite have the range with all of the big tools that Furia has.
Oh, they're on to IU. The Samus has found him. Miryu's looking for the damage and has enough to push it over the line, but Gigo, meanwhile, is wasting time for VKS on the other side of the fight. It's 2-for-1 right now, and Furia don't only have one carry, they've also got Tattoo, they've also got Tuts. Now Seo feels desperate. You can see he feels like he has to be the hero, but it's just too much to ask of the man. Tuts now destinying into the backside with a gold card for Kaiwing to lock up another ace, and VKS, they try to force the play at Drake. They get themselves ace, they give away the dragon as well, and this game is looking like it's going to be just about done, Brett.
I can't see the angle for VKS to get back into this one. Normally at this point, you're looking for that kind of miracle flip pick potential play, but the Elder's not even close to up. We've split dragons 2-2. And so you're looking at another 15 minutes minimum for some form of Elder play. You have 4 minutes to the next Baron. I'm not sure the game even goes that long. Furia are in such a strong position, and not only are you looking for some big flip at some objective to put you back into this game, but again, as we just hammered home, this is not the team you want to be flipping into. Their position with the lead is just far too strong. And you can see here, again, I feel like it comes down to kind of CEO not having like the range, not having the heal and front line to just get into the mix of things. goes on to Gigo, gets good damage here on the top. So you can see how much damage CO is doing once he is in range, but he's just not strong enough to survive 1v4 like that. And without the ability to just force engages, without the ability to get that Varus into the mix, it feels like kind of hopeless.
It does feel a little bit hopeless for VKS, sadly. And this is, you know, on the podcast, we thought, you know, maybe it looks like VKS were back, but maybe they were just playing against pain, you know what I mean? Maybe
that's what I did.
Yeah, no. Just a bit of a difference of opponents right there, unfortunately. So we see another play. VKS do get some splashdown for the Miryu ultimate, but Furia now turn over. It's their turn to fight back. Desamis can't get the passive off. Gigo will fall down into the turret. The DPS from Seo is enough. Tattoo drops as well.
Okay.
Tuts has gone deep into the backline, maybe too deep, and cannot get much done onto Seo. So Furia, with a little bit of a split play right there, playing too deep under the turret, and VKS will knock them back.
They will get the tower for their troubles, but I think ultimately VKS is pretty happy with the outcome. They trade 2 for 2, but the 2 they get are shutdowns, one of which into the pockets of CO, did very desperately needing that gold. The on-hit Varus really starts to come online post 3 items, as many a marksman does. So we would like to see him, you know, get to that threshold. Hasn't had the chance thus far, but maybe this extra gold will be just what he needs. Very, very close. You can see has 2 components of the of his armor pen item, and that's going to allow him to do a lot of damage. This Ornn has been, you know, so tanky, especially now with the extra XP. And you can see kind of what happens here is everyone just goes forward. I think they think they're going to destroy this tower a little faster than they do with the Grim Deliverance from Desamis and the just extra damage from CEO and Miryu, able to just get the targets burst down eventually. It takes them a moment, but they do get there.
It is.
Now we've got still a long road ahead.
Yes, a very long road back for VKS. We can see what Seo can do. He's got the 3 kind of core DPS items locked out, and all the viruses then start building into things like Jack Show, kind of similar to Callista builds to try and give themselves a bit more survivability to burn through those tanks. But on the other side, Tuts is full build. He is 4.3k ahead. He has got 14 stacks on a Medjais. He's got an Ornn upgraded Lich Bane. He has actually gone for a pretty, you know, a pretty damage heavy build because of the Medjais there. He's not gone full tank, as it were. And he has already got enough damage to completely knock out Kaiwing in one go. Caitlyn's 3 and a bit items deep. We've got an upgraded Hex Optic, Infinity Edge done. Furia just have damage coming out of every kind of side right now. And Seo, if he's given time to stand and fight, he can make something work. But all Furia needs to do is pull back the aggression, maybe 5-10%, to not go too deep under the turret. And I think the window for VKS closes again.
Yeah, they're going to have to. We've talked about Furia, you know, playing so you know, well with the lead. A bit of an overstep there, but they're up, what, 13k gold when that play starts? Do they particularly care that they went from a 13k lead to an 11k lead? I'm not sure that they do. Now it is, once again, VKS on the back foot, and the call of the 4 jumps coming over.
They can't get the stun. There it is. Jojo finds 1. Tuts gets another. The Mikhails comes out, or the cleanse, I should say. Seo gets away with it. No ultimates now available for Furia to use. The engage tools have been popped. There is still a Pop Blossom if they can get VKS to pull into this 5v5. And they seem to be open to the idea, which I'm not really sure is the best one, to be honest. Furia are so far ahead. 11k still. And now Furia, they peel back for the Baron and demand VKS to find an answer. The Caitlyn trap line goes down, and looks like VKS might just go for mid lane turret. Let's see what the choice is.
Well, we don't have the vision. Now we do. We can see the Baron not falling as fast as you might like if you are Furia. That's because they have a few members kind of waiting here to see what VKS is going to do. VKS says, no, we're not going to get that mid lane turret. We're not going to be able to contest the Baron. We can try and get something, though. There is a dragon up. Advancing that dragon game state as fast as possible is kind of their only hope, is just to force it to Elder and survive. They are in pure survival mode right now, and they are taking anything they can get. But this means Furia, on the flip side, knows everybody's at dragon and is going to take a big chunk out of your base.
Yeah, if they can get a Hextech Soul on Seo and Desamis, that certainly wouldn't go amiss. But again, they've got to last 5 minutes to the Soul, probably another 5 minutes to Elder. And who knows if this is going to be a 40-minute game, Ren. I'm not sure about it. Furia certainly don't believe that's going to be the case. They've got turrets toppling mid and top lane. Tuts holding down that mid lane push. The rest of Furia pressuring on that top side. Bot lane wave is moving in as well. They've got another option to rotate to if they wish, and plenty of time on the Baron. VKS go for the play onto IU. Miryu gets some ult damage down, but it's not nearly enough to force more of a play out of it. Furia simply step back, wait for the waves, and step back in.
Miryu does no damage to even the squishy carries, which is really unfortunate for the side of VKS. I do gotta say, I like the itemization here from Jojo, just playing purely into a fairly tanky Nico, right? You have obviously the Hextech Protobelt to make those engages that little bit easier, but after that, Mikhail's, they went Celestial Opposition. They know what their job is, and that's to be a huge engage tool. They don't need to pick up kills. They need to hit 5-man Pop Blossoms. Can they get the CC? They do!
Couldn't get the ult down. The knockback from Desamus is there. Tuts goes golden. Fury looks to rotate forward. A flash away cannot keep the TF alive, but is it enough time to get Jojo into range of Miryu? The Pop Blossom comes out, and the Aurora goes down. The equalizer is good. Tags a lot of members. In goes Desamus. Tries to get the passive done. The drag back is there. But a massive crit from IU's Caitlyn takes his head off before he can get the revive. Gigo finds the knock up onto IU under the Nexus turrets. And Furia will complete the 2-0 over VKS. It was an emphatic, commanding win here for the Furia boys. And the Vivo Cade Stars have the momentum taken out from under them. It's a great start in week 1, but it's back to the drawing board in week 2.
Yeah, it feels like the breath kind of got stolen from their lungs. We said, hey, if we have a back on form VKS versus a back on form Furia, we're going to have one hell of a day. And we did get a back on form Furia. That I think we can pretty confidently say Furia looked quite commanding, like you said, but VKS still a little bit more to go before we can call them quite as back. And I when this Furia team is up, I just do like the attitude with which they move. Like we talked about them being confident on the Rift. I think that shows they look very confident off the Rift. Just all the players look really ecstatic. Their heads held high, and they should be, because this was quite a good victory today.
It certainly was, right? And none of the shakiness and the errors that we saw against Los. I think that was a very messy series. I think everyone would agree that Macro was not really front and center in that series. The fights were messy. The mechanics weren't quite on point. Tattoo especially, I think, had a bit of a slow start to Split 1 in 2026. But today, he's back on. He's back online. He is absolutely firing on all cylinders. Pantheon into Aatrox, Playmaker into carry, and it was clinical, classic Tattoo from minute 1. And there was just no holes in the Furia map, right? Miryu couldn't get one over onto Tuts. He once again successfully absorbed a very mechanically skilled mid laner. Gigo and Weiser was pretty much even across the board. There was no major leads being found by either of them. And for when you're drafting Ornn, that's fine. You don't really care if that's going to happen, right? And then IU and Jojo, I think the drafting really helped the bot side. I think Furia's drafts were phenomenal today. And the Caitlyn Nico was able to completely kind of shove around the Varus Lulu in that lane, right? So I think the drafts were great for Furia. The plays were great. The team play was there. The individuals were on point. This is absolutely Furia woken back up to kind of 100%.
Yeah, and they're kind of showing that, hey, we let one get through early in the split, but like we talked about, it's week 1. Week 1 of CBLOL has never made much sense. How many times from 2023 to 2024 did we watch the first week or two of CBLOL and be like, it's over, Loud is cooked this time.
They're not going to get away
and
with
then they 4P,
Yeah.
So those early weeks, there is still something to be said. We are at least playing best of 3, so we're getting more out of these teams than if it was just a best of 1 week to week. But I am still saying that it's a little early to call anyone top or bottom of the standings quite yet. But Furia making a very strong argument for why they're going to be in contention for the championship.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot wait to see them up against Red Canids, the team that was the one team that was consistently able to trip them in the cup. Now with a fresh top side with Zint and Steps, So, and against the incredibly powerful top side of Furia, we'll see if Red can continue their dominance over Furia, or if Furia will finally defeat that demon from the start of the year. For now, we're gonna hand it off. We're gonna wrap it up for the day. Thank you very much, Bren, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, you can find us at CBLOL_English on pretty much every social, on Twitter, on Blue Sky. You can follow us if you like what we're doing here. This is a fully voluntary run project. I have finally managed to work out how to use vMix. Barely, but it is purely due to the good graces of Rose, our actually kind of good main producer who sets all this up for us just through the the goodness of their heart, right? So if you like what we're doing here, if you want to support us, you can follow us on the channel. You can offer a little prime or a sub if you wish, and besides that, you can come back and watch us once again next week. We'll be back Saturday, April 11th, same time, same place, and that will be the kind of super week, I believe, with a Saturday and a Sunday and then a Monday and maybe a Tuesday, but maybe not a Tuesday. So at the very least, Saturday and Sunday. So we'll probably have worked out what the schedule is by next weekend. So at the very least, you can come back on Saturday and find us here. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching one final time. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you back here for more CBLOL next weekend.